All right, well, welcome back to Suede Against the Grain. I am really excited today to get talking with Meron Solomon. And if you want to be a little spicy about it, even though she's not spicy, she's actually Ethiopian, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, it's Meron Solomon. Um, so today what we're going to be talking about, I really want to dive into, is we talked about a couple of weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the conversation that we had, I thought it was a really wonderful conversation. It went on for, I mean,
It was a while.
Yeah, we were at Panera for like 3 or 4 hours.
I think even longer.
Yeah, we were just sitting there with our masks off. We were being bad. But when we had talked, I initially had reached out to you on Instagram, and I'd said, hey, I've been kind of following your stuff, and I am interested in talking to you about something that you're passionate about. And you immediately had a subject that you were very passionate about, right?
Yes.
So the key phrase that you kind of told me during that conversation that we had, still talking through Instagram, was, it's their shame, not mine. That really stuck with me. And it stuck with me because I hear so many people talk about the specific topic that we're going to be talking about, and there's a lot of shame involved for them, not for the other party.
Mm-hmm.
So without further ado, I'd like for you to just kind of introduce yourself and give us a little background about who you are, how long you've been in the military, and what the topic is that we're going to be talking about today.
Okay. So, like Suede said, my name is Meron Solomon. We'll roll with that today. I'm 26 years old. I've been in the Army for just under 8 years now. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, child of 2 immigrants, great struggle life. I got a brother. I got a ton of cousins.
Hell yeah.
And I'm surviving college right now. Thank God.
Yeah.
I work in logistics for the Army. It's been fun. I was at Bragg first. Now I'm in the D.C. area. So the topic we'll be discussing today is sexual assault.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. And this is a difficult topic to talk about because it's such a broad-ranged topic.
Yes. And it's misunderstood and misdefined and never quite handled properly.
Yeah, definitely. So on that specific note, what I really would like to address for anybody who's listening right now, we are not going to be talking about sexual assault in the terms of, revolutionizing the system necessarily, or sexual assault as a whole, because there's just too many topics, too many people, too many things. So what I'd like to focus on today is your specific story,
right? How
it affected you, what you went through, where you're at now.
Right. So, experiences vary. So I can only talk about, like you said, myself and my experiences and what I went through as far as what had happened, the reporting, the legal parts, the command support, all that jazz. So where do you want to start from the beginning?
Yeah, so let's do a quick little recap because I know that we could sit here and talk for probably another 5 hours.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm going to give a little, a preface.
Okay.
You've been in the military for a while now,
Yes.
We could say a minute, You haven't been in for 20 years, but you've been in for a minute. Long enough to know, long enough to understand. And I'm sure a lot of people that will be listening to this will also know that feeling. But you've been sexually assaulted.
I have.
Multiple times.
Correct.
By multiple people.
Correct.
And I think that where you should start is what pops into your mind. I believe that conversation goes where it needs to, and this is not an interview. This is your platform to talk about it the way that you want to.
Okay. Well, I can say that since I've been in the military, I have filed 10 sexual assault complaints. 5 of them were actually a sexual assault. The other 5 ended up being more of like a harassment. That's how it was classified.
Yeah, definitely.
All of them have gotten away with it. All of them, except one, I think he got kicked out of the military.
Was that before or after the investigation?
Well, it had nothing to do with the investigation. He got kicked out for other reasons.
Oh, okay.
One, I think, got out of the Army, just ETS'd, and the rest have been able to continue on their military careers.
Yeah, just go about their business.
Correct. And that part sucked.
So, in terms of range of rank, were some of them your same rank or were some of them higher ranking than you?
So, one happened when I was a specialist with another specialist, and the most senior was a W1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive into the very first one.
Okay, well, this was back. I was at Fort Bragg, Specialist Solomon. You know,
I
drinking the
remember you
Kool-Aid.
when you were
Yeah,
still a specialist. Yeah,
right. Isn't it trippy?
it is crazy.
Super hard charging. Kicking down doors type thing.
Yeah,
Killing at my
definitely.
job, all that jazz. Airborne paratrooper. Uh, so this was July 2015, and I had just broken up with a guy, and I was taking the time I needed to kind of get myself together because I realized I need to be completely over him before I even thought about dating again.
Yeah.
So I went on a single soldiers retreat with a buddy of mine, and she and I were the only females on the trip, so we stuck together the whole trip.
Okay, really quick. A single soldiers retreat. Can you explain what that is?
So the BOSS program is basically it's a program that the Army's kind of developed to help single soldiers not feel lonely. That's kind of how I
Yeah.
kind of take it.
Yeah, definitely. It's for single soldiers to integrate with other single
Yeah.
soldiers because, there are a lot of military married programs
Right.
and they go on retreats all the time. And therefore they have, the MWR,
Yes.
which is another program in the military that helps civilians as well as, the soldiers. It puts on these like trips. You can go
Right.
to, the Great Lakes. You can go to Niagara Falls. You can go to New York or Chicago
Nice
or
little
Philly.
getaways.
Yeah, definitely. So you were at a single soldiers retreat
At Myrtle Beach.
at Myrtle Beach.
Right. So
Okay.
we drove down there on our own dime, and the Army paid for like the lodging or whatever. So of course me and her stayed together.
Yeah.
And the morning session was like relationship classes and stuff like that. The chaplain was really cool that taught it, and then the rest of the afternoon was our time to kind of socialize. So while I was there was this one guy. So it was all other infantry guys there. There was this one guy who kind of paid particularly strong interest on me.
Yeah.
It'd be like kind of weird, and I wasn't used to it, but because I had my other female friend there, me and her stuck together the whole time, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, definitely.
So I can tell he kind of liked me. Apparently he remembered meeting me a year prior at the gym. And
That sounds like a line.
I,
Hey, I met you a year ago.
I mean, once he started like helping me remember, I was like, oh yeah, I did meet you. Wasn't that like a year ago? Like, oh, the hell? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, whatever, man. So we get back. I remember giving him, we were talking about like relationships because that was the whole topic of the weekend.
Yeah.
And he was saying something about him and his girlfriend. And I was like, yeah, talk to her about whatever issues you have, bro. Like, don't sit here bottling them up. That's just basic advice.
Yeah. Would you say that you were being too overtly friendly doing that?
No.
I'm not trying to victim blame you. I'm just, I'm
But
trying to make a point.
I do realize that, like, a lot of times when people are not used to genuinely just nice people.
Or like positive
Yeah.
female or male attention.
Right. They see it the way they want to see it, you know? So we get back. He ends up breaking up with his girlfriend because there was some weird thing going on.
Yeah, definitely.
And I remember him kind of paying more attention to me. And at that point, I was like, okay, let me make it very clear to him that I am not interested in anything. I don't do friends with benefits. I don't want to mess around. I'm not ready for a relationship. I don't want to dabble in nothing. Like, I'm good where I'm at. And
Which sounds like
clarity.
it sounds like clarity as well as you had really, really well defined boundaries. Like, hey, I know
Very
where I'm
clear.
at, and I'm going to assume that you're going to give me the benefit of those respecting of my boundaries.
Right.
Yeah.
And I let him know, like, hey, if this is something that you can't do, then we can stop being friends by all means. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to put him in a position where he doesn't feel like he can control himself. So
Yeah.
he's like, no, I'm fine. It's cool. And I remember on multiple occasions he would try to kiss me. So the single soldiers retreat was at the end of June 2015.
Okay.
So all of this happened within a span of a couple of weeks.
So it moved really quick.
It did.
Yeah.
So it's not even like I would have really seen it coming. It was just like,
It was like, hey, I'm in your life. Hey, I remember you.
right.
Hey, I'm really nice to you. Hey, you've been really nice to me.
Right.
You know.
So, I mean, I remember him multiple times trying to kiss me and this and the other, and I was like, dodge,
Yeah. Like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, like, nah, man, I don't do that. And
Yeah.
I remember at one point he started getting upset because he'd be like, why aren't you claiming me? And I was like, claiming you for, I'm confused. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're not my boyfriend. Like, what are you claiming who for what? So anyway, he would kind of still to a certain extent respect my boundaries, and he was a significantly strong person.
Yeah, let's dive into that. So, let's kind of give the listeners a little bit,
Okay.
because I know that some of these listeners have met you, they know you, they remember how small you are. But
I am 5'3" and about a $120, $125 on a good day. Okay, like I am strong and feisty, but I have my physical limitations. I am aware that in theory, like anybody who's stronger than me can like break bones in my body.
Yeah, and for anybody that's actually watching this, I'm 5'9" and 200 pounds, so I am vastly bigger
I'm very
than
little.
you.
Yes,
And he was much bigger than me.
he was huge.
Yeah.
This dude could run 12 miles and then work out at the gym for 3 hours. It was ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I just figured he was just full of adrenaline. He was the whole like, I want to go to Ranger school, all that jazz, and I'm like, do your thing, man.
Yeah, so he was super pumped up and just really excited to be in the military. He wanted to do the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous how strong this dude was. So the one thing I appreciate about people is their dedication.
Yeah.
So I know how much energy it takes to work out. So for me, to a certain extent, I admired it because I was like, that's crazy, but that's pretty cool that you're disciplined enough to reach your goals and to put in the work.
Yeah, it's very admirable.
It is.
When we see that in other people, especially like, not necessarily that like if the thing that had happened didn't happen,
right?
If he had been a really stand-up good dude, that could have been a very, that's a prospect of, hey, I see that you put a lot of work into your body, a lot of work at the gym, you run a lot, you're very fit. I'd have been like, you want to
help me do that too?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Right. It could have turned into something completely different.
Yeah.
So one day I remember I had this keyboard in my room that he would like to mess with and play with or whatever. Yeah. And funny enough, I actually got rid of that keyboard now. I can't even play the keyboard or the piano. I can't do it.
Because of the memory.
Yeah, I literally did not touch that keyboard after that day.
Yeah.
So I remember that day. I'll never forget it. It was, I think, like a Sunday night in July. And he kept trying to turn the light off in the room. So the way the barracks were set up, you walk in, it's like a common area, and then you have 2 separate rooms with their doors. And then I didn't have a roommate, and they were like key card entries and all that jazz. So I would go into my room, leave the door open, and leave the light on, and then there's a lamp.
Yeah.
So he would turn the main light off, and I would turn the lamp on. And he would just always try to set this mood. Like, I'd open the curtains, let some light in, because, I mean, I'm all for, like, there's no reason to have lights off.
Yeah.
So I remember him coming up to me and trying to kiss me again, and I was like, no, man, like, you need to back up. And then I remember him trying to take my clothes off, and I distinctly will never forget the moment. I was like, no, I do not want to do this. I don't want to do this. Stop. Mm-hmm. And he just kept kind of taking off my clothes, and he didn't aggressively push me back, but he was just like pressing me back where, again, I can't push back. I was smaller at Bragg than I was now.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Because, I mean, we ran all the time, but.
Yeah, you're a little beefy now.
A little bit. It's that COVID weight. But I remember that moment kind of like, it was like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
Because it was like I can see myself now. Like, I can still visualize myself and him standing in front of me. Like, the bed was here, I was here, and he was here.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even get to the door.
So he had you pinned between everything.
Right. Like, where was I going? And in my mind, if he grabbed my wrist a certain kind of way, he could have just snapped it. Like, I have a small wrist, you know what I'm saying? So my thing was, okay, don't end up in the hospital. Don't end up, like, with a broken neck. Like, if you wanted to break my bones and throw me in the closet, nobody would find me until the next morning, you know?
So the aggression that he was giving to you in that moment was definitely not, it wasn't like, hey, I'm just kind of messing around and pushing you around. It was,
this is going to happen.
This is going to happen.
Right.
Which is very aggressive.
Right. And the sad part is it wasn't even like a Law and Order left bruises type thing. It was just like, hey, I know I'm stronger than you and I can overpower you.
Yeah. He probably didn't have to do very much to get you where he wanted to get you.
Right. Because look, I have become very aware how little I am.
Yeah.
So.
Were you aware before that?
No. I feel like at the time I was, I don't think I realized how people perceived me as far as like how small I was. In my mind, I was just hard charging, doing my thing, and like trying to prove myself. Like, I can do that too, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
I can ruck too, guys. I can jump and do all that too. I can be badass too.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever actually took the moment to be like, oh, they see me as this 5'3" little girl.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured they saw a pretty face.
Yeah.
But I've experienced that my whole life. Not so much, hey, I can overpower her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, commenting on a pretty face, as much as we don't like that and we don't want it, and it's, it's not needed.
Right.
It's a lot different than doing something to a person.
Right, because that thought never crossed my mind. In my mind, it was like, okay, if somebody was to try to jump me or beat me up, that's a different thing.
Yeah. I
can still fight back. But this was like, whoa, you're crossing a line, and it's because, you can do it.
Yeah.
So I remember in that moment thinking, like, this is really happening.
Yeah.
Like, just that shock. And I remember when he was done, he got up and he went back to his room. And then I went to PT the next morning.
Like nothing ever happened.
Like nothing happened. But because it was that shock of, I was walking to the company AO, just shock. But I knew that once I had to show up to the, formation, it was like, all right, switch.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to care about what happened during the weekend. What people care about is, it's time for PT, can you run? Like nobody really checks up on, nobody checked up on me or noticed anything off. And you remember how brag was. God forbid you try to get medical attention. God forbid you try to report, something like that. It's not the environment that I knew it would have taken more of an emotional and mental toll on me.
Yeah, I mean, the environment breeds a positive and a negative out of the same problem, right? So the problem is, hey, we need soldiers. I mean, we need soldiers that are going to do anything and everything that we ask for.
Yes.
There's a sign at Fort Jackson's basic training where it says, show me a soldier who will jump out of a plane, and that's a soldier that I want to follow into battle. I just butchered that saying, but we see paratroopers on TV and all these different kind of things. Like, our roots go back to World War II and what we did in World War II, and we are always, as cheesy as it sounds when you're in the 82nd, once you're out, you're very proud of your service, and you're very proud of that dedication that you had, and very proud of, like, man, we always did everything all the time. But there's the double-edged sword portion of that, which is, I also felt like, as much as we were progressing and we went out to the field and we were doing all these things and we had all this camaraderie and we were, just a tight-knit unit and we were just ready at all times to go.
Right.
We also didn't feel like we could go to the doctor.
No self-care.
What? Oh, behavioral health? I don't want that person in my squad.
Good luck with that, right.
I don't want anybody. I remember I saw a kid in behavioral health one time, and he called me at midnight that night. And he was a scary guy. I know that, I'm not going to say his name, but I know that you probably know him. And very quiet. And he literally told me, if you tell anyone that you saw me, I will slit your throat in front of your wife.
So here's the thing. As dark as that is, that's basically what the mentality. Like,
that's
I'll
normal.
Be damned.
Yeah.
If you catch me at behavioral health. Like, hell no. I'm not throwing my career away.
Yeah, hell no.
Right. And the sad part is, when I got to DC and I started going to behavioral health, I realized, like, oh, they can help you with factors of life? What? That's a thing?
Yeah.
This is not going to hurt me?
That's crazy, right?
What? Yeah.
Yeah. And again, not to say that brag is bad. It's just that is a part of the mentality.
It is an environment.
It is an environment. It is a culture.
That needs to change. But
it does need to change.
Yeah.
That's a whole other subject though.
Yeah. It can be harmful in moments like this where you need the resources, but you know you can't get to it.
Yeah. Or you just, maybe the resources are there and you just don't even feel safe enough to ask.
Right.
That's really what the problem is. It's like the boss that
backlash.
Yeah, you don't want the backlash, and it's like the boss that you can't go up to. They're not approachable.
Right.
Right.
Or even if they say they're approachable, there's enough things in front of that boss that are like, you better not do it. You better not do it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so getting back to the story, you said that he did what he did.
Right.
He left, and you went to PT the next day. In our conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago, you had also said that you feared that he was going to kill you, or he was going to harm you in a way that you wouldn't be able to recover, stuff you in a closet, and just no one would find you.
Right. And so, as extreme as that might sound, to me in that moment, it was like, if you're crazy enough to do something like this, like, you don't have a line, you know? Like, in my mind, I
Yeah.
didn't think this was possible, but you just blew that out the water. So, who's to say, you know, you just won't snap one of my bones in half and leave me to where I can't walk? Like, who's to say if I put up a fight, you're not going to try to strangle me and accidentally kill me?
Yeah.
Like, who's to say this is not going to escalate even further than it has? So, in my
Yeah.
mind, it was like, all right, we just got to survive and make it, like, we just got to be able to live and walk and not end up in the hospital.
So you're in survival mode.
Straight up survival mode.
Yeah.
And I was in denial for the longest time that it happened.
Yeah.
Because it just felt like my brain short circuited. Like, what are you talking about? There's no way that could happen.
Yeah.
So some time had passed, about a week passed, and I noticed something kind of weird. Like, my body just kind of fell off. So I went to, I was 21 at the time,
Yeah.
about to turn 22. And I went to the women's wellness, whatever, like they do the women wellness check or whatever.
Yeah.
So this was going to be my first women's wellness check.
How old were you at this time?
21.
21.
So I go in there and I'm just like overtly chipper and happy, which I feel like should have been a red flag. It was freaking weird. Because now in hindsight, I'm like, I would have looked at somebody like, are you on drugs? Why are you so giddy? Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm so excited to get my pap. Like,
right. Like, I didn't even know what was going to happen. Like, I didn't know what
bro,
was
the
composed
fuck is wrong
of
with you?
this. Right. So the doc was really cool. And I appreciated, like, he was super, chill. He was asking questions. And I didn't mention anything to the doc because they ask you, how many partners have you had and this, that, and the other. And in my mind, I had one partner beforehand.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't consider that guy a partner because you have to consent for something to be a partnership,
Yeah.
So in my mind, it wasn't even a thought. It wasn't a thing. It was just, I refused to acknowledge, but I knew something felt off.
Yeah.
So, did a little testing or whatever. It was super freaking weird. Get my stuff, head out the door, and I had motor pool duty, I think, like that night or the next day or whatever. So that was a Friday. I get a call that Saturday morning before I'm even off shift. I think it was like 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, shoot.
Because we're all sitting on that bench outside the motor pool gate shack or whatever, and it's summertime or whatever. And the doc is like, hey, Meron Solomon, he sounded so concerned, and I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? Basically, he tells me that I have chlamydia. And I was devastatedly shook because for two reasons. One, now I couldn't deny that something had happened.
Yeah.
There's like physical proof. And two, now I'm at a point where you have now jeopardized my health. Because what if I hadn't noticed this for a while? You could have taken away my chance to have kids one day. You could have just really damaged. And I didn't even do anything. So immediately he's like, it was a Saturday, and they were like, hey, pick up your prescription today. It's at the hospital. I didn't even know pharmacy was open on a Saturday, but appreciate it.
That's because you never went to the doctor.
Look. So that same day, I immediately contact the guy, and I'm like, hey, we need to talk right now.
Yeah.
I was so angry because it was just shocking. I was like, what have you done? It was bad enough that you just took something from me, but what have you done that you just, what the hell?
Yeah.
So
you wanted to confront him.
Right.
Because it was easier to confront him about
something
the
tangible.
STD
right.
than the actual.
Absolutely. Than the actual rape. It was that I could try to deny, but this is like on paper. Every time a doc goes through my medical records, I see it. Right. Yeah. I see it. They see it. I know they see it.
Yeah.
I see them see it. Like.
That's a shitty feeling. I definitely.
Because
I know that feeling.
The judgment is just like, you don't understand. That is a timestamp on when it happened to me,
It's marked you.
It has. Thankfully, took the pill, took the treatment and all that jazz. Everything cleared up. So when I confronted him, I was so angry. This was at the defect, actually.
You confronted him at the defect?
Yeah, I don't give a look. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Look, he was lucky it wasn't a big scene.
Yeah, seriously.
So I told him, I was like, hey, you gave me this. What the hell? Da 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 da. Like, and I just walked out. I was like, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I leave. He goes to the public health clinic or whatever, off base. And on Bragg, they send you to the EDC clinic.
Yeah.
Because you have to like go get continuous testing there, make sure you're okay. They follow up with you there, blah blah blah, and they give you like sexual health.
For anyone who's familiar with Bragg, it's a building where literally all that happens there is STD testing.
No, they also do cold weather testing because I definitely had to go there when my feet went numb after field exercise.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is basically STD testing.
Yeah.
It's
at least they've got two functions.
It's still weird though because you walk in and you check in and you're like, so what are you here for?
Which STD do you got? It's not funny, but you know,
dark humor.
Exactly, this is how we deal with it.
Absolutely. So I go in there and the lady was super nice, and you know I didn't tell her what happened, but I didn't tell her that it was rape, but I just told her, I was like, yep, it was this guy, and I just test me again so I can tell me, you can tell me I'm good and I can leave.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, just next time, you know, use condoms. She gave me a bag of condoms, you know, and I was trying to explain to her, no, I assure you, this guy and myself will never, it will never happen again. Like, I'm not interested. And she's like, well, you know, every situation is different. You can, you know, work things out. You can work past through this. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not going to happen.
It's always interesting how many people give unwarranted advice, you know, when they think that they know a situation, but they're not empathetic or even emotionally intelligent enough to realize, like, hey, you know, like, her lack of saying something is actually what needs to be heard.
Very much.
You know?
I feel like had she even said, hey, well, why? Then I think I would have kind of started sharing a bit.
Yeah.
So some time passes. Well, actually, that same day, I take the bag of condoms home, throw it in the trash, because I'm like, nah, fam, I'm good.
Yeah.
So the way the barracks doors are set up is that they don't have little peephole things, so you can't see who's at your door. Especially when someone knocks, you can just put the latch on and then kind of peek open. But the way
but you still have to open the door.
Yeah, you got to open the door. So I remember the way the barracks is set up is the females stay on one half of one floor, and there were so little single females that lived in the barracks. My God.
Yeah, I feel like there were only like, especially around that time.
Yeah, throughout the
in
battalion?
that specific brigade and battalion, there were very few females.
We didn't fill up all the rooms.
No, because everybody was either married and
or had a kid dependent or something.
Yeah, or something like that. There was probably like 6 or 7.
I think I was the only consistent person that stayed in the barracks like the whole time. Single for life. Oh God. So he ended up in his attempt to apologize, if you will. He would continuously show up at my door. Now the problem is, because I can't see who's on the other side of my door, I think I was promotable at the time, so I was kind of like the NCO, if you will, for the floor. So I don't know if it's a girl knocking and they need help, because that's happened a couple of times. Knock on my door, open the door, and it's him. And again, he's a strong dude, so he can just push that door open. And I remember he raped me a couple more times. And I remember,
really?
Yes, and I remember pleading with him saying, like, dude, we're both on medicine. Like, we can contract it again. Like, just trying to reason with him to be like, don't do this.
Oh, my God.
Because I don't want to contract it again. You don't want to contract it again. He was like, no, we're okay. And I'm just like, what do you mean we?
So what you're doing, okay, so I want to kind of clarify for anybody who's listening, okay? Because I know how it can sound when you say, oh, he did it a couple of more times and I kept trying to plead with him. I'm just going to shed my own little 2 cents right now. There was a situation that I had with a female, and she tried to get me to have sex with her, which sounds funny, right? It's hilarious. The problem is, I'm not going to punch her in the face to get her off of me, right? And she was a friend. In fact, I've seen her a few times since she got out of the military. And, you know, I keep in contact with her every now and again because it's still in my brain is 2 separate categories of a situation, right? And when she pulled the stunt that she did, first of all, it was a bad night. Nobody should have been drinking the way that they had been. I was the only one who was sober enough-ish to be able to drive myself home, and I was still drunk for the most part driving home, but I was willing to drive home drunk because of what happened. But I remember She threw herself at me, like unbloused herself for me, tried to pull. I had board shorts on. She kept trying to pull my pants apart. And she just, I mean, I remember she was so drunk. She had a wood floor. She dropped to her knees, didn't even wince in pain on this wood floor. I mean, that's how drunk she was. And I remember the only thing that I could fathom in my brain to say, hey, back the fuck off, man.
Right.
It was, your husband is still deployed, man. Like he's coming home soon.
Yeah.
Like stop, you know? And it didn't, I mean, because when we're in these situations where it's somebody that you either know or have associated with or something of that nature, you don't necessarily know what to do.
Right.
You
Because
know?
you want to say that you'll react in such a self-defense aggressive way, but in those moments you're like, but
Yeah.
what?
I mean,
I thought we had an understanding.
Exactly.
I thought we were at a friendship. I thought there was a respect thing. Like,
Yeah.
what just happened?
You're blown away by the fact that somebody crossed that boundary. You're blown away by the fact that it's somebody that you could have potentially trusted.
And in such a large way. And
Yeah.
in such a like, whoa, this was literally the one thing like I have asked you not to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's freaking wild.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I'd be like, well, you could have just threw her into a wall. And it was like, first of all, that would have led to about several charges and a very bad turnout for everybody. Even though it would have been you just trying to respect your boundaries.
Oh yeah, it would have been turned around completely. I mean, you know, what was I supposed to do? You know,
Right.
and for me, when I look back on it, it's a very laughable night, but it's laughable to me because she couldn't overpower me.
Right.
She couldn't do anything. I still left. I still had that option. You didn't have that option.
Right. I was in my room.
Yeah, it was your space.
Right.
It was her house. It was your room, her house.
Right.
You know, like, I'm bigger than her. I'm about the same size in comparison to her as I am to you. And you were overpowered. So, I mean, I just want everybody to understand, like, these things, especially if you've gone through this. I think that you can identify with the feeling of you grapple with the words that you can.
Right. And you try to kind of, you read the situation, you read the moment, and you're just like, I hope I'm making the right decision in this moment. And I feel like I did, in a sense of, like, again, my goal was, if I get hurt in any kind of way, it's not like this injury is going to be perceived as I was a victim. I knew that, like, at Bragg, at my command, at everything going on, it was going to be as, like, what did she do? Is my recovery even going to be taken seriously? Is my injuries going to be taken seriously? And I knew it would have hurt me more if I didn't get the emotional and mental support I needed. And I knew I wasn't going to get it there. So as I started realizing, like, okay, this is becoming a pattern from him, to just try to show up at my door, I just stopped hanging out in the barracks. I stopped being in my room. I would drive 50 miles in any direction. I found parts of Fayetteville. I didn't even know it was still Fort Bragg. I was like, what? There was a sign that was like, no trespassing. I had to U-turn. And then just go back. I would get home at like 11 o'clock, midnight, whatever. Have a crappy parking spot in the back. And
Yeah, because that parking lot is huge.
it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I would just avoid being in my room just so that, like, by the time he would try to knock, I wouldn't even be there. So I also started drinking more at that time. I started hanging out with some close friends that I trusted, in a sense of I knew I could drink around them and then I'd be okay. So the assault happened in July. August is when I kind of started picking up drinking and all that stuff. So as soon as that, I ended up getting tested again because I was so paranoid after the fact that he would keep showing up. And I was just like, oh my God, if I contract it again, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. I can't handle this because this is too much to confront. So September, we had the battalion ball.
Yeah, which I remember.
I got so plastered.
Yeah.
So freaking plastered. And it was more out of frustration. It was more out of just wanting to die. And because I remember trying to tell, so my ex and I, way back when, we had history back in high school, so we just kind of grew up together to a certain extent. So I remember trying to tell him what happened. But he was kind of like in his own dismissive phase or whatever. And then I just got annoyed and I was like, bump it. I'm not even going to tell him, like, screw him. Yeah. Whatever. So at that point, I just kind of honed in on like another outlet, and I got so hammered Oh my gosh.
So that was when your drinking really
Yes.
started to take off.
Yes.
And before that,
was...
you weren't really a drinker.
No.
Yeah.
No. I was maybe a social drinker. Even then, I just didn't care for it. I was like, this is not, I mean, a lot of children of immigrants grew up tasting alcohol. It's nothing new. It's not like a turn 21 and turn up thing. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
So I remember the night of that Army ball. My female friend kept a good eye on me. It was on base, and the barracks were right there, so I wasn't too worried about drinking because I knew I can walk up to the barracks if I really needed to.
Yeah.
But I remember that night, my NCOIC, he was trying to make a pass at me. He was like, "Hey, if you need to sober up off base at my place on the couch, you can." It was super weird. Like, he was whispering it in my ear. I was like, still sober enough to be like, I can go to my room. It's okay. That's weird.
Yeah, so the 2015 ball was a really interesting time because for anyone that was there and that remembers the 2015 ball, that was one of the most lit functions I think that particular battalion has ever had. It was a combination of good leadership, bad leadership, wild fucking enlisted members, wild
Liquor,
officers.
that grog was good.
The grog was good. I mean, the liquor was for days.
Open bar.
Open bar. You had first sergeants buying shots for everybody. You know, shout out to you if you're watching this. You know, it was a really, really great night, but I could see very easily how you could be lost in that night.
Oh yeah, I was buzzed before I even got there.
Yeah.
Because my friend's date drove, and I was in the back seat, just peach Ciroc, woo. Spilled some on my dress. It was a good night. It was ultimately I had fun.
Yeah.
Got to my room. I was drunk till the next day. I think till the next freaking evening.
Yeah, I think we all were.
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah.
But it makes me smile now because in that moment, at least I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that I don't know who your NCOIC was, and I definitely don't want to drop any names on this whatsoever. Just out of respect for the people. But I'm not surprised that happened because I remember that was the first time we were both. Yeah, I think I've only been in like maybe a year longer than you, perhaps, but that was my first time really watching senior enlisted
Interact
like that with the junior enlisted.
Yeah, it was
and
weird.
I was shocked.
It was definitely because I was okay respecting like, oh nah, bro, you a whole
Yeah.
But okay.
I mean, because at that point, you know, I was still, and I'm sure you were still, like, I called my NCO sergeant.
Absolutely.
Even when it was like, we're in civilian clothes.
Right.
You know, I remember my one female NCO that I had, you know, if she put me at parade rest in my civilian clothes, I did it without a question. I just was like, yep, Roger.
I mean, my face would have been like, that's cold-blooded. But absolutely,
yeah. There was no question about it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're still my boss.
Yeah.
Like, in my mindset, it was like, this is still not a work function, but I still understand the structure of what we're dealing with here.
There is a structure.
Absolutely. I'm not crossing that, but they was off the chain.
Yeah, there was a lot of people crossing lines that night.
Oof.
I remember some of my really good NCOs being really upset about what they were witnessing.
They should.
Yeah.
They should have been. And the thing is, they really should have just stepped in, but that's...
I did see a couple of people step in, but I mean, there were
good.
so many things going on that, you know, there's only so many people that are sober enough to actually step in. But there was very predatory behavior.
Absolutely.
Very predatory behavior.
My God. And I was very glad that, I mean, even in my drunken state, like, I am still aware, like,
yeah,
what you're not going to do is that, sir. I will walk to the barracks with heels in my hand before that happens.
Definitely.
I forgot to mention. So when the first assault happened, in that same week, I got a TBI.
Yeah.
Which was pretty shitty.
And it's very important to your story.
Yes.
Very important.
It plays a factor. So the TBI caused a ridiculous amount of migraines. I wasn't able to get it checked out right away because I got put on CQ.
Yeah, which is a normal thing. Like, hey, you're hurt, whatever. Okay, because you're hurt, I'm going to put you on duty.
Right, you can stay awake. And it's like you actually need a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
So for about 9-10 months straight, I had migraines every day. And in a weird way, I was kind of grateful for it because I was able to focus on the injury more than the assault.
Yeah.
And in those moments that I wasn't focused on the injury, I could be drinking. So it was just other things to kind of distract me because I don't think I was in that mental space to be able to handle all of it. So some time passes. I go to BLC. Graduate, all that jazz. Graduated in November, picked up in December, pinned one January 1.
Yeah.
So I got promoted. My friend was like, hey, we got to go out and celebrate. And at this point, I had cut back on the going out because, one, it was winter. Two, I'm very cautious about who I go out drinking with.
Yeah.
She wanted to go to Cagney's, and I had never been to Cagney's. I didn't really want to go, but I was like, okay, I'll trust you. Let's go. Mm-hmm. So we kind of do like this double date thing. Her and her boyfriend, and then her boyfriend's friend.
Yeah.
And I made it very clear to her and the guy ahead of time, hey, no funny business. Mm-hmm. I'm just here because you're going to be a third wheel if I'm not here. I'm, just here to have a good time.
Yeah.
Be a gentleman, and we have no problems.
Which is a very normal thing to say.
Absolutely. I just want to set a precedence.
Yeah. I mean, like, I had a situation where a girl told me, hey, we're not together, even though we've definitely slept together. You and I are not together when we go out. And I was like, okay. And I could respect that.
Clarity, right. No misunderstanding.
This is your boundary line, and I'm going to respect your boundary line because I can do that.
Right. So we go out that night, having a couple of drinks, having a great time, whatever. It's a small place, by the way. Jesus.
Yeah, I've been there like once.
My goodness. And then I noticed people start calling me Sergeant, and I was like, oh, well, that's my cue to leave. Because if you're still seeing me as Sergeant on my free time, then I probably don't need to be here. Yeah.
It's good to separate those things.
Absolutely.
I do miss that about the 82nd. I miss that there was a time where only the E5s and up would hang out together, and all the junior enlisted had to stay kind of to the wayside,
But this was too much of a mix, and the sad part is only a week prior, I was one of them, so it was...
Yeah, that's a really, really rough transition.
Right. But I knew, I was like, if there was ever a time to set that tone now, it's right now. Like, we need to go.
Yeah.
So we go, and the initial mindset was we were supposed to drive back to base to go back to our rooms. But she was too drunk. I had been drinking.
Yeah.
So she was like, we can just crash at their place. And I was like, no.
Like, this seems like a recipe for disaster.
No, right. She said, if you're uncomfortable at all, we can just head back. Like, she was going to have her boyfriend drop us off.
But was she saying that, how like some friends say like, oh, if you're uncomfortable, we can go back, but
I feel like
we're not really going to go back.
I feel like it was one of those, I really don't want to, but if you want to,
like,
go back.
Way to kill my party for me.
Kind of, yeah. And I didn't want to be that bothered. That was like, but that's your boyfriend, and I didn't want to drive all the way back to base, just drop me off, and then what if he's been drinking and now we both, like, it's the whole worst case scenario. I mean, on a Friday night, I'll be damned if we get stuck with a DUI and I didn't even do nothing.
Yeah, because, I mean, in the military, if you get a DUI, not only do you have a DUI, but you also lose your job. 100%.
Yeah, well, depends what your job is. Some people get away with it.
That's true.
Different story. So we end up crashing at their place. So she goes to his room. She's asleep because she was gone.
Yeah.
And then the other guy, he was a gentleman at first. He gave me a shirt and some shorts to put on or whatever, just to kind of be more comfortable, like clothed.
Don't you know that that's consent if you take his clothes?
Freaking wild, right? Who would have thought? What? Like, I'm sorry. It was wintertime and I was cold. I mean, I was going to sleep in the sofa, but they had this, like, fish tank that was, like, lit up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I ain't going to be able to sleep with a fish tank in my face.
Yeah.
So we're about to go to sleep or whatever, and he's on one side. I'm just kind of, like, laying with my arms crossed.
Yeah.
Close to the edge. Like, this is weird. And then he kind of rolls over on top of me and tries to start making a move. And I was like, whoa, no, man. Like, I'm sobered up at this point. I'm good, man. I'm fine. And he keeps trying to push on. He's like biting my neck and stuff. Like, he'll have bruises on my neck. And I was just like, no, man. Like, I remember distinctly remember making eye contact with him, and it was like, no, this is not happening. I'll be damned. Because I was definitely ready to, like, make a ruckus. Like,
you were going to fight.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. Like,
I mean, because you've already been through this once.
Right. And I'll be damned if it's in somebody else's house. Like, no. So, eventually he gets off and he goes to sleep. So, in the morning, he drops me off because I guess they were still asleep. And I was so thankful. I was like, oh, my God.
So, you dodged a bullet?
Yes. First thing in the morning. I didn't want breakfast. I didn't want none of that. Take me back to my room. Go to my room. I see that he's left bruises on my neck. And I'm just like, oh, what the hell? Like, I don't have makeup to, like, get concealer to cover this up. So I'm over here going to the pharmacy and trying to find makeup, like, matching tones and stuff. Like, this is garbage. I was so frustrated and I was putting ice on it, trying to find like Googling ways to be like, how do you remove bruises? And it was so visible.
Were they like hickey bruises or like bite mark bruises?
Both.
Jesus.
Like, and it was pretty bad. It was like extensively long. It was like, first of all, that hurts.
Yeah.
What are you doing? This is not, oh God. I still remember it. I did not. It was a rough night. So I go to work. Okay, this was Saturday morning. Sunday, I spend all of Saturday and Sunday trying to like, get that bruise to go away.
Yeah.
'Cause it was like several across my neck. And I go to work on Monday with my uniform. I'm thinking, okay, it's a lot better. I'm trying to cover up with concealer. But, uniform rubs against it, sweat and all that jazz.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
my natural muscle memory is not to focus on makeup on my face. Like, it's, So I remember a first sergeant coming up to me, and he's like, hey, you're an NCO now. You have to cover that up. And it blew me away because, one, he didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't ask if something happened. This was completely out of my character. I was a soldier that was in the barracks, in my room, doing homework on the weekend.
Yeah.
That was me. So for him to say that and not inquire a bit more, because in my mind, it made me realize, one, how I was perceived as like, I knew she was that girl that was probably just getting around. And it was like...
Which is crazy to me because, again, we were literally serving in the same unit area at the same time. And I remember that among the females in the company, in my particular company, because you weren't in my company yet, we all knew about you. And not in a bad way. We all knew about you because our senior enlisted females and our officers that were females would often say, hey, be like Meron Solomon, like be, like look at her, like she's doing all these things and she's, she's a hard charger, and it just goes to show that how unaware people can be, when we're around, because there's always somebody in the company that everybody knows about that's like doing a really good job of being a soldier.
I didn't know that I was perceived.
That's definitely how you were perceived.
Well,
when you came to our company, everybody's like, no worries, we got Solomon. Not even a problem, not even a threat. We all knew, like...
That's nice to know.
Like, it was great because we really didn't have catty females in our unit to begin with. And then when you got there, it was like, thank you, whatever God is out there, for giving us Solomon.
Here for you, man.
Seriously.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I take pride on is my reputation is I work hard and my work ethic. And I am one of those people that I would rather be known for being authentic.
Yeah.
And I would rather work on who I am as a person so that I can pass the test of any fire, you can say whatever you want about me, but the facts are, like this is who I am. That's cool. That's nice. That made me feel good.
Definitely.
Aww.
Yeah. I mean, that's the truth too. Not just gassing you up. So let's catalog this a little bit.
Okay.
So you started drinking a whole bunch more.
Yes.
Well, you started drinking to begin with, and then you started drinking a whole bunch more.
Way more.
You started going out a lot.
Correct.
You started showing up with bruises on your neck.
Yes.
Whereas before, that was not at all the case
No.
of what type of soldier that you were. So this was, out of character behavior.
And I was working a lot more. I would literally be the one to work till like 7 or 8 o'clock on a Friday.
Yeah.
And nobody seemed to have an issue with it. Nobody seemed to question, like, why is this 20-something-year-old not having a social life?
Why is this 20-something-year-old acting like she's been in for 20 years and has no life because of her 20 years?
Just burying myself in work.
Yeah.
Because, one, imagine having to go back to that same room. Like, it's just... And block out the memories. It's like that same... I wasn't getting any sleep. It was just subconsciously just screwing with me so much. I would maybe get 3 or 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you know how much physical work we used to do, like between night jumps and all that. And it was tough. So, after all of that, I was like, okay, more denial, right? I remember visiting my cousin in Tennessee. Excuse me. And I was listening to a spoken word poem thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the artist was talking about something she had been through her childhood.
Yeah.
It was like some kind of assault or whatever. And I heard it and I started bawling. And like I had to pull over in the car.
Damn.
It was the middle of the night. Nobody was there. Crying. And that's when I realized I was like, something happened.
And at this point, you still haven't told anybody, right?
No. Okay. I couldn't even admit to myself.
Yeah.
But after hearing that, it was just like, okay, I can relate to that too well. And I have to admit something is wrong. Something happened and something is wrong. So I was like, all right. There was a guy, he was another Yankee. He ended up coming to the brigade.
A Yankee is
Logistics
supply person. Okay.
So me and him started dating for, I think maybe it lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I cringed at anybody touching me. Like, I wanted to cry. I just was just so tense. I couldn't handle any type of like intimate situation. So I made up some excuse for us to break up. I mean, it wasn't an excuse. It was a valid reason.
It was a really valid reason.
It was.
You just weren't in a place, and you probably didn't know how to deal with that, or even say.
So
this
I found
is what
other
it
reasons.
is.
Yeah, it was like there were other valid reasons. It was like, hey, you're really bad with money, that bothers me, or you're pretty arrogant and that bothers me. It was valid, but it wasn't like the real authentic like, hey, this is why I can't do this.
Yeah, definitely.
But me and him stayed close because I know he really cared about me. And he'd known nothing that was going on at the time. So let's fast forward to the person we both know.
Yeah, let's. So at this point, you have been sexually assaulted.
Yes.
It was a rape.
Yes.
And then you have been. It's still sexual assault.
So that one counted more as like,
like a sexual assault harassment
right.
is what they would probably categorize that as.
Right. So he ended up getting kicked out of the military for other reasons.
Okay.
So they couldn't really touch him.
So as of this point, these are just the two people.
Right.
Okay.
As of this point.
So now we're fast forwarding to
a couple months later
with the person that we both know.
Right.
And we've both had our own types of encounters with.
Right. Take these off.
Yeah, take your hoops off.
Yeah, it's bothering my ears. Okay, that's better. Okay, so at this point, I moved
just
to Charlie.
To clarify, you're now in my company.
Correct.
You're working
I moved to your company.
Close with us, but you're higher in rank, and you are a platoon sergeant.
Correct.
You are no longer
Specialist Solomon.
You're no longer Specialist Solomon. Mm-hmm. Now you have some rank on your chest and some real responsibility. You are responsible for people's lives.
Right.
Okay.
And I love that job. It was, I freaking love being in Charlie
Company. You did a great
Company.
job at it.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was definitely tough work and a lot of hours spent, but I very much enjoy helping people better their lives, and I enjoy just being able to be an asset, you know?
Yeah.
And I enjoyed what I did. I mean, we had a whole change of command coming up, so a lot of prepping for that. I mean, I was the first time I was in a supply room because I had been in staff for so long.
Yeah.
So I knew a lot of it was going to be me independently catching up, if you will. So, and the person who was there before, he was great. Like, he made sure I transitioned well, and he was there, you know, to help me out if I ever got stuck or something. I mean, he was right across the way over, I think, at White Falcons.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
He had some very interesting things that he did to somebody, too.
We'll discuss later.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. My soldier, actually. So
we'll put a pin in that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So many questions. So, funny enough, I would hang out with him too, and never had any issues. So as I'm prepping for the change of command, I didn't have a soldier at the time. So as I had headquarters soldiers, they were attached to different things. So like NBC, the freaking down at the BMSO.
Okay, so NBC is nuclear, biological, chemical.
Yeah, gas masks and then all that.
BMSO. Basically, they're a bunch of different components of supply that we have in the military that goes toward different companies. So you are in charge of all these different portions of supply.
Right. Charging, like the personnel, just kind of helping them where I can, because, I mean, I may not be a medic, but I still have a certain obligation to make sure they are covered.
Yeah, because you were in a Charlie Med, which is a medical company.
It's an adjustment.
Yeah. It's very different than just being a staff member.
Right. And it's very different than just being a supply person.
Yeah.
So I would clean out the whole cage, and I remember leaving my cage door open.
The cage of supplies.
Hey, man. That's right. Yeah, sorry. Let's clarify. The cage of supplies. There were shelves, and I had a desk in there. That was where I guarded my stuff.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I always had a chair there in case my guys wanted to come and sit, in case anybody else wanted to come out and sit and just kind of talk. And I'd do my thing while I played some music. It was just a lot of paperwork to go through.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, a lot to clean up and just fix to my liking, you know?
Yeah.
So this particular person would come in every now and again. He was brand new to the unit, to the company as well.
Brand new to the unit, and he was also a platoon sergeant at this time.
Correct. In another platoon, right?
So platoon sergeant, just so we can clarify for anyone who might not be military, a platoon sergeant is basically a person who is not the main head boss of a company. They are middle management, and they take care of a majority of people, and they are responsible for a majority of people, but they have to answer to the highest.
Right. The first sergeant commander, all that.
That's the only way I can think of to explain it. It's not
that
a very
works.
good way of explaining. But anyway, continue.
So he started coming into my cage, and he would help me shred paperwork, kind of go through things or whatever. And I thought it was weird, but I was like, sure, I'll take the help. It's just me in here anyway.
Yeah.
And I remember him starting to tell me about his life and him, tell me he had a son and this, that, and the other. And I was like, you're oddly open, aren't you? Okay. Whatever.
That's always, in my mind, a really big red flag.
Right.
When
But
somebody's way too open.
I also didn't want to, because some people are like that. Some people are just super open. But in my mind, it doesn't mean I'm going to be open to you like that. You can share whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because I've realized sometimes people feel quite comfortable to just...
You're very approachable. You're extremely approachable.
From what I'm told, yes.
Yeah. So at this point, when this is all going on, were you... Remember, because we talked about with the first incident, you didn't feel like you knew how people had perceived you. You didn't feel small. You didn't feel vulnerable, right? And then after that, you felt vulnerable and small. At this point, were you were you like a watchdog, just waiting and looking for a new situation? Or were you still trying to be giving the benefit of the doubt to people? Especially because he's a new guy and, you don't know him.
I felt like it was more... Because I was now a platoon sergeant, I felt like now I was in a position where I need to watch out for other people. Like, I was still neglecting myself and what I needed. But in my mind now, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch out and see, like, other girls. Maybe there's something I'm missing, or I'm hoping that I'll be approachable enough to where if they feel uncomfortable, come to me.
Yeah.
I was more so, like, projecting outwards instead of checking on myself.
Yeah.
So I was still doing the whole drinking thing. And I think... I was more so burying myself in work at this point instead of going out and stuff because there was work to do. There was work to distract myself.
Yeah.
So in the midst of all this, I'm still doing school. Well, I had just finished my associate's degree, and I didn't want to stray too far away from school. Just kind of...
Yeah, so you are just really chugging along. Like you are...
Oh, dragging myself.
You're just checking boxes, like left and right. Like I'm
Survival
making rank.
mode.
I'm in survival mode. I'm going to
Autopilot.
school. Yeah.
Straight autopilot. No emotional feeling.
Military autopilot.
Just disconnect. Oh, yeah. I mean, in no way was it healthy whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't even enjoying the things I was accomplishing.
Yeah.
And that was the crappy part was, hey, I finished my degree, but I couldn't even feel good about it. Or, hey, I got promoted and I didn't feel as good about it. And I couldn't really be in the moment because I was just on to the next thing. It was like, okay, what else can I do to just not be stationary and not have to think about this?
Yeah, I can imagine that the fact that you were dissociating so much from the things that... I mean, you hadn't told anybody, and you're dissociating from that, and you're dissociating from the feeling that it gave you and all those things. So, therefore, if you dissociate from one piece or one part of your brain, you can't use those same pieces or parts of your brain to really enjoy the fullness of the good things that are happening in your life.
And then there's still physical demands. Like, we still have PT tests to run. We still have regular PT to do. There's still runs to do. Like, there are the airborne ops. There's still physical and mental demands that I felt like I wasn't allowed to step away from. Like, I feel like I would have been hurting the unit by trying to take care of myself.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because God forbid,
Yeah.
So he comes in my cage more or whatever. And again, the cage door's always open. No type of weird secrecy. And then I remember one day he hit me up and was like, hey, I'm doing like a breakfast at night type thing.
Yeah.
So Charlie Med was known for gatherings and get-togethers. I've been to a couple. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because Charlie Med was a family group type of close-knit unit.
Yeah, it really was. And like we had discussed a few weeks ago, when you got there was when it had really started to fade. Mm-hmm. Especially when he was there. I mean, everybody had faded. All the old family members had left. You know?
And I was going to try to keep alive what I could in my little platoon. Like, hey, guys, we can do whatever. But
yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I'm down for it, right? What do you need me to bring? He's like, hey, just bring some juice, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, cool. Breakfast at nighttime. So I show up. He lived off base. And it's just me there. And I was like, did I miss something? did I not read this right? You know, thinking like, okay, maybe I misread the message.
Yeah.
Long story short, that was his way of asking me out on a date. That was weird.
It's almost like passive aggression.
Right. And I felt like he was so awkward. Like he didn't know how to be emotional either.
Yeah.
And that's the dangerous thing is like now you have two people with two traumas and two commonalities, and it's a weird thing to relate to.
Yeah.
And so from there on, I was just kind of like, okay, that's weird. I mean, I slept on the couch that night because it was pretty late.
Yeah.
He has a dog, and you know, like I felt pretty like okay, like
Yeah.
nothing really crazy was gonna happen.
Again, for anybody listening to this, it is not wrong to expect nothing bad to happen.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with spending the night at someone's home, expecting for it to just be a normal, I'm going to sleep on the couch and that's totally normal and fine.
Mm-hmm. And especially since we're in the environment where you need to be able to trust each other.
Yeah.
You need to be able to be family like you. Like this is a requirement. How am I supposed to trust you on a deployment, in a tactful situation, in an intense situation if I can't trust you here in Garrison in your own home?
Yeah, that's a serious problem.
It is. It really is. So some time passes. We hang out a little bit more, and I kind of realized he's kind of like aggressive. So we would like play fight, combative type things or whatever. So he was exceptionally strong. And again, I didn't realize how strong he was because he's a pretty slim person.
Yeah.
But he would kind of get way too aggressive at times. Like we'd be play fighting or whatever, and then he would try to rip my clothes off. And I'd be like, whoa. I remember one time I had to yell and be like, get off of me.
For the record, and I'm not saying that this is anything demeaning what you're telling me, but I have seen him do that to men even. Which is still not okay.
Right.
You know? Like, nobody
Just-
wants their fucking shirt ripped off in the middle of the workday.
Right. What are you doing?
Nobody wants their belt tugged at, dude. Like,
Right.
get the fuck off of this soldier.
Right. Like,
You know?
draw a line, man.
He was just really, really outwardly aggressive.
Now it's weird hearing that now because I only knew about that about him on like an outside of work thing. So he was very much a narcissist, if you will. And I can comfortably say that now based on he was into like accolades and like kind of like self hyping up or whatever. And
Oh, yeah. He had a serious problem with anybody who wasn't like, oh, dude, you're the best fucking thing ever.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't give a fuck about you, man.
it was just, and he would, I feel like I started turning into a fetish for him when it was, he would kind of want me to he would get turned on if I was angry. Like he would want me to be the angry black woman, And what pissed me off was like, I'm not gonna do that though.
Yeah.
That's just not gonna happen. My brother sees that side of me, not you. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was frustrating. And then I remember one time when, who was it? Mike Brown died. And we were watching a lot of the news or whatever, like the cop shootings and stuff like that. And he was like, I don't understand what the big deal is. I don't understand why they're protesting. And I was like, you know I'm black, right? You know my brother's black, my father's black, my cousin, my uncles, like my whole family, my mother.
And then not only that, but he's a white guy with a black son.
Right. You got a biracial child that like you trust me
That looks
with.
black.
Right.
You know, he doesn't look like he's white. He looks like he's black.
Right.
Yeah.
And at this point, I had spent some time with his kid too. Like he was comfortable enough to where like I could play with his kid, put his kid to sleep or whatever. His kid was so adorable.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we went out to the mall or whatever, or even at the company, people thought that was my kid. I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Because they had known me for the last 3 years. At what point was I pregnant with a child? So that's the point. Right. So then I remember he shares custody with the kid. So the kid wasn't there at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember him inviting me. I think we had a Donza for whatever reason. And I had never been to the Airborne Museum downtown.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, we can go. Just come on over. And then we'll drive out from there.
Yeah.
So I was like, sure, whatever. I had a skirt on. I get to his house, and then we find out the museum is closed because I think it was some military Donza day, whatever.
Oh, like a holiday.
Yeah, I mean, this was like somewhere in the spring, so I don't remember.
A Donza basically means that you have the day off.
Woo! I think it was a Monday.
Yeah.
Or a Friday. I don't freaking remember. Anyway, so before this point, I had made it clear to him that when it comes to sex, that's something that needs to be held off. Like, that's just not an option for me right now. And I remember being very specific about it because I was like, I'm fine not spending a night at your house if this is the case. And we came to that agreement because he was like, hey, like, he's more of a sex addict and he kind of needs it. And I'm like, cool, I'm good with stepping away. We can even just dismiss this whole thing. And because it was more of like still that introductionary phase. Still at that, like, I'm still getting to know you and trying to figure out if I'm even feeling this. Like,
yeah, so, yeah, which that takes a while, you know? Like, you got to figure out, like, hey, you know, like, we get along.
Right.
You know, but I'm still kind of in a platonic,
right.
you know, relationship with you, and I'd kind of like it to stay that way until I'm ready to move forward.
Right. Absolutely.
You know?
Because, I mean, I still have a lot going on. And in hindsight, I can feel like during this time, as far as my faith, it was like I was running on such autopilot and shock moment. I feel like I couldn't even take a pause moment to even attempt to be like, God, what is happening? Because it was just so much. So I felt like it was just shut off. Like someone just pulled the plug and we're just going on autopilot. So on that day, I remember he like was play fine. He was doing something stupid or whatever. And then he had like on these Ranger shorts or whatever that he kept trying to move out the way. And I was like, stop. So he pulled me on top of him. And I was just trying to get up because I was like, okay, I see you getting turned on, man. It's my cue to head out.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to pull my skirt up, and he was moving his shorts aside, and I was just like, no, this is not it. This is not it, friend. You don't want to do this.
And he had a grip on you.
Yes.
And I want to clarify for all the people listening. I know this man personally, and the man had a grip. When he grabbed onto you, there was no fucking letting go. He held on. It was not something to play with. I mean...
I'm little.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like, he did this all the time to all sorts of people.
Right.
I mean, he would just come up and grab my hands behind my back. You know, like, I was doing nothing, and he'd chicken wing me until I had to tap out.
Right.
Like, that was just his fucking norm. But, you know, we take these people with kind of a grain of salt because it's like, that's just who he is.
Right.
You know?
You don't think he's going to cross that line.
Yeah.
You don't think it's part of his... We don't realize that's a huge red flag that nobody should really have.
I mean, even people that we know are really fucking weird, there's very much so something off about them. We still give them the benefit of the doubt because we really have no choice but to do that.
Right.
Like, yeah, we don't have to spend personal time with them, but we spend, honestly, all of our time with these people. So going over to their house for food or to hang out with their family or whatever, I mean, especially if you have no family in the area, I mean, you're kind of starved for friends in a lot of ways, especially being a platoon sergeant. Like, you don't get to hang out with, you know, the people who are not platoon sergeants. You kind of have to hang out with where everybody else is at your level or up. And really, nobody up wants to hang out with you, and nobody below wants to hang out with you because
they're not comfortable. They're still like, are you sergeant now? Are
you
like brand new?
There are levels, and there are very few people who are very good at. I always told people, I know you're really my friend if we can be friends, and then you can do exactly what I've asked you to do during work.
Facts.
You know?
Right.
Very few people can do that.
Right. Understand my obligation and respect that. Also, let's go have a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that's kind of how I perceived it, too. It was like, oh, I'm hanging out with another platoon sergeant. Like, this is the bonding brotherhood that the Army's been preaching about. Like, it seemed like a decent enough thing. So, back to that day, I remember in that moment just being like, wait, like, what's happening? And, I mean, granted, I feel like I'm stronger now physically than I was then. Then, because we did a lot of running, I mean, it was just, that's really here. I mean, I can get into squats. I can do, I've done baton death marches. I've done, like, I got some strong legs now. Now I could probably, like, kick somebody off. But at the time, like, I couldn't get off. And he just pushed me down. And I remember just being, like, just kind of shocked, because like what just happened? And then I think for that moment I kind of caught him off guard, and I was able to get off and just be like, it's my cue to go.
So he did 100. He moved his shorts and he did what he wanted, and he grabbed you, so there was no way you were getting out of it.
No.
So we need to clarify that this is,
yes, that counts as rape.
That counts as rape.
Now what threw me off too was like, because how rape is defined is just, it took me so long to understand that was rape.
Yeah.
To even just be like, no, he doesn't need to finish for it to be rape. No, like nothing else needs, like that lack of consent is enough.
I mean, putting anything in anyone's body, that's a pretty serious thing.
Yeah, and I mean, there was one time too. I remember he was cooking or something in the kitchen, and this was beforehand. And I was on the couch with his dog, like sleeping or something, taking a nap. And I think I was wearing shorts or something, like, kind of like loose shorts.
Yeah.
And he came up and like put an ice cube in me, and I didn't realize. Like, as soon as I realized that, I woke up and he was just laughing. And I mean, in hindsight, I should take that as a red flag. But people in the 82nd are crazy. Like,
So there's a lot of ways to look at this, right?
Right.
Again, I think the thing that we don't want to get caught up in is overgeneralizing, right? We're just talking about you.
right,
There's fight, there's flight, and there's freeze. And a lot of times, nobody even knows that there is freeze. It's a natural response that the
Right.
body has. And in certain moments, you're going to be able to fight. In certain moments, you're going to be able to flight. And
because in that moment, it was just like, what do I do? If I report this, what do I say? Because one, it felt like, okay, people are gonna laugh. Two, what proof? Three, what now? Like,
yeah, because I
what
mean,
would that even look like?
if we're playing devil's advocate, I mean, someone could very easily say, why were you in a position for that to have happened to begin with?
And yeah, and what they're really asking is, why were you taking a nap on the sofa in shorts? Like, what?
With a coworker.
Yeah, like,
know?
and it's funny how there's the idea that we need to be a family as a unit, and then they can, out of nowhere, it'll be like, oh, that's your coworker. It's like, I understand there's clear boundaries. That being said, should I not be able to go over to another platoon sergeant's home where he invited me and keep a healthy distance
Yeah.
and socialize, where like nothing sexual beforehand has happened. There's no innuendos, no, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, why is that abnormal?
That's a good question.
Because I mean,
There's no black and white standard that they hold
right.
either. And every situation is deemed and judged differently.
Right, right. And I think a lot of the times too, people want to see what they want to see. They want to see the good in people, and you don't want to believe people are capable of that, and it's hard to even wrap your mind around it. So sometimes it's easier to judge the situation, maybe judge the victim, and hope that that person's not really as horrible as they may have seemed.
Yeah.
So that happened, and I was kind of, fast forward a little bit, I got slated to go to Jumpmaster School. Somehow, drats, got
Yeah.
me. So I had wanted to go to air assault school for the longest time, but at the time a policy came out that, hey, if you're an NCO, you need to go to Jumpmaster, become Jumpmaster qualified before you can go to air assault.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, cool. If I get the chance, cool, whatever. I get white slip on the first go.
Mm-hmm.
I get slated as a walk-on in the next class. I was super butthurt, but at the end of the day, the whole work ethic thing, I didn't want to be a jump master.
Yeah.
Because I'm little. At this point, I know I'm short. Like, that was the one thing I understood. I knew I have a height deficiency.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of studying. I mean, I had no time to prep. I was going straight into jump master school and then change of command. So as I'm going through it's a lot of studying, a lot of memorizing. I got hay fever halfway through the course. I mean, it was just rough. So I'm still getting everything first time go. Still killing it. I mean, E5, black woman, young, first time go on a lot of things. I'm at the JMPI.
Yeah.
And you had everybody else in the class who had been there several times over. A lot of seniors, just a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty proud of myself. But I also knew that to a certain extent I was alone in this. Like, I don't feel like I was getting support from my unit as far as like, hey, we can help you at JMPI, or hey, we can help you study or whatever. I got none of that.
Yeah, because they were salty that you went and you were
Right.
doing well, which is a very common thing that happens
Right.
there.
Which is, I didn't volunteer to go. I was told, you're going.
Yeah.
Hey, show, like, Brigade Sergeant Major said, do, you go.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to do my best at whatever I've been presented at. So at this time, about a year prior, I had applied for this assignment that I really wanted, because I was just like, I need to get out of Bragg. And we had been fenced in for so long because we were on GRF, and
Yeah.
I couldn't go anywhere. Anytime the fence would open up, it'd be open only for a couple of months, and I wouldn't be in my window to re-enlist, and then boom, we'd be shut in.
Yeah, and to clarify what that all means, basically, when you're on GRF, you're on boots to ground, deployed within 16 hours to 18 hours. And during that time frame that you're slotted for that, it fenced in basically means you're not going anywhere.
Right.
Even if orders came down for you, you're not getting them.
Yep.
Because we need you right now. So
I was trapped.
you applied for a specific program,
Right.
which for OPSEC sake, operational security, we will not talk about. But it's a pretty damn cool program. Very proud of you for that.
Thank you.
But you got in. I
got selected.
You got selected.
And I found out the night before JMPI.
Yeah.
Because I had went into work to just kind of prep for change of command. I'd never been through change of commands. I was just trying to get a lot of ducks in a row. And I saw the email, said congratulations. I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And the report date was in a couple months. And I was like, we in there. So in my mind, I was like, okay, if I pass JMPI, I can leave with my star.
Yeah.
And that would be a boss move. You know what I'm saying? Show up at a new unit, E5 with a star. Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
That would've been a
at
huge
this point, right, I had been jumping for 3 years. I know what I'm doing. I have the experience and the jumps to back it up. Like, let's go. So I told nobody about this. I only mentioned it to that other platoon sergeant like the next day after everybody found out. So the way it works, the retention NTO sees a list of like who's assigned to what.
Yeah.
And by the next morning, everybody and their mother knew where I was going.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to avoid basically happened. Like I started getting called White House and this and it was like that bittersweet. Like they think that they're happy for you, but you know they're not happy for you. They're actually pretty salty that you're gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, Sergeant Major at the time, he tried to get those orders cut. Like, and I was like, why would you do that? It's above your level, man. So I went to the schoolhouse, and everybody at the schoolhouse knew. And I was just like, oh, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
So I failed JMPI. And I knew why I failed because they were upset that I was going there. Now, people can be like, oh, well, you don't know that. Well, I kind of do. Because as I was leaving, you know, they give you the thing where you can come back a little slip. And they're like, hey, you did really great. We can't wait for you to come back to the next class. You're going to get it on the next shot, Jump Master. And I was like, but you know I'm not going to be able, you know this. You, like, as I was walking in, you called me, what? Like, you know I'm leaving. And you know what I'm saying? It was just like adding salt to the wound. And it hurt so bad. It hurt my ego so bad because I had worked so hard and I've been killing it, everything I've done. And it felt like they just took away this thing that I didn't even want.
Yeah.
But I had worked so hard for.
Would you call that your first failure in the military?
Yes. And it hurt.
When you get your first failure in the military, it is one of the most painful things you can possibly imagine. I just recently had my first
Did you?
failure. Yeah. Yeah. And it was very painful. I talked about it in another podcast actually about disillusionment. But I know that pain, like,
and then having to go back to the unit.
Having to go back to the unit and have them, because they're going to pull you aside and they're going to tell you, hey, you fucking failed.
Which is weird because it's not like any of them checked up on me while I was in the course.
Yeah.
But when I got back, suddenly, apparently everybody had been talking about me at Jumpmaster School the whole time. And then some people were like, why is she even there? Just like all these seniors that you think should have been supporting you. And then there was just one senior leader that was like, oh, they should have just sent someone that was going to pass. I was like, didn't you go like 5 times, fam? What are you
Yeah.
You know, just this like, why is that negative mentality come? Like, who hurt you? I did nothing to you.
It's really interesting, actually, just listening to this because it seems almost, and maybe my interpretation is wrong. It's very likely that it is. But, you know, here you've had quite a few men take something from you, right? And then you have these men primarily that are your senior leadership and they are hating on you for something that should be a good thing, right? And that carries a heavy burden. And for anyone who's been in Bragg, again, you know that when your leadership doesn't expect you to do well, or they don't really care if you do well, or they don't want you to do well, you know it.
It gets in
They
your
know
head.
it.
It hurts.
It gets to you. You carry it with you. It's a heavy weight. And then, you know, and then the actual failure that did happen, I'm just going to call it it's not a real failure. I mean, maybe you didn't pass.
I failed the course, right.
You failed the course. You know, you didn't. That's not a failure.
Right.
But it feels like a failure, and it feels like another thing taken from you.
Right.
So you just have these things just repeatedly over and
Right.
over and over and over again
Right.
taken from you.
Right.
Which is a devastating feeling when you add all of these things up. And this happened in what, 3 years? All of these things?
in a 1 year span. All of this has happened.
All of this happened in a 1 year
Yes.
span.
We're
And
in
that was a
20
bad fucking year.
It sure was. It was rough. And at this point, I'm just continuously disconnecting because I'm like, I cannot mentally, emotionally process this. In my mind, I will subconsciously process it and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
That is not the reality. Your body never forgets. Bump that. So at this point, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm going to focus on change of command. I was trying to hype myself up, even though I felt like a failure. I was like, but you made it through first time, go through everything else. And
Yeah.
da, 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 da. You know, I didn't get kicked out for other reasons. I was worked my butt off. So, I get to change command. I'm working hard on that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't have the time. I literally do not have the time to deal with anything else because I had just gotten a clerk, I think, right before. And it was like, wow, why am I getting a clerk right now? I got to teach her my job because I'm about to leave in about a month and I got to make sure this command is good. And da-da-da. Like, it's a lot. And then you had that other couple of special soldiers that made my life interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they meant well.
Yeah.
They meant well.
Sure. Okay. We'll go with that. I mean, I enjoyed it. Either way, I just knew that all those things demanded things of me.
Wait, are you talking about your particular...
Yeah.
Like the people that did the things that were bad to you?
No.
You're talking about your direct soldiers.
I remember one direct soldier.
Got you. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm tracking now.
Yeah.
100%. The super predatorial man that another podcast.
Look, I raised flags, okay?
Yeah. No, everybody did. Everybody did.
But I felt like at that time there was so much demanded of me and so much that was needed of me that I didn't feel like I could take care of myself. Forget take care of myself. I couldn't even have the time to even entertain the thought of taking care of myself.
Yeah.
So, get through the change command. Everything goes great. No flipple. I'm just saying, it was really smooth. I made them look great.
Yeah.
You know, I found, you know what I'm saying?
For all those that are listening at home, a flipple basically means that somebody's paying money for the things and the items that were lost, and there was no amount of money to be paid on your end because you did such a good job.
And they dropped amount. A lot of it is on the previous person, but a lot of it was also like, if you do your job well as supply, you can account and shift and you can basically assist the command. A big part of it's on the commander too.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord. If they take it seriously, you can help them, you know? So I was fortunate enough that the outgoing was great. Incoming was pretty on point.
Yeah.
So while this was happening, I'm getting ready to also PCS.
Yeah.
I'd never PCS before.
Oh, really?
No. And I was so excited to
That's
get out of
crazy.
Bragg. Yeah, it was a lot of information, you know? You got to go from one place to another and fill out paperwork, and half the information doesn't apply to you because you don't have dependents, and you're just like, can you just stamp my paper?
Yeah, the PCS is definitely... PCS is basically you are going from one base to another.
Yeah, change of station.
Yeah.
So while this is happening, there's another 92 Yankee in another brigade who apparently had been watching me for a while. Because at this point, I started going to the gym.
Yeah.
Started trying to exercise more, trying to kind of put on some more muscle.
Yeah.
And all that jazz because I was tired of being a runner.
You think that you were subconsciously trying to protect yourself?
I think so. I think a part of it was like maybe I can put on some force and if I look badass.
Yeah.
I tried. So he had been watching me for a while. He had seen me at the gym over at Gavin Hall, you know, the one next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had no idea who he was, but he found me on Facebook and hit me up. He's like, hey, yeah, I saw you at the jump and this, that, and the other. And I was like, who are you?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. But it was another 92 Yankee, and I was like, okay. You know, we connect a lot because we need each other. We need to network.
Yeah. I mean, networking is huge. You've got to do it.
Are you kidding? What? As a logistician? It's your best friend. Mm-hmm. So we go to... He invites me to go to this CrossFit class.
Yeah.
I read something, whatever. First time ever doing CrossFit, thought I was going to die. And it was a good time. And then we went to like IHOP or something.
Yeah.
And then we hung out one other time beforehand. And then he went to like Ranger School. Was it Ranger School? Or Selection? Whatever it is, the one that like, so you can go to a Ranger battalion.
So he went to pre-Ranger and then Ranger School.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think he passed pre-Ranger and then was going to Ranger School.
Yeah.
No, he came back with his tab.
So he went to Ranger School.
Yeah, went to Ranger School.
Okay.
So he was prepping for all that. So this dude is strong.
So he was a high speed guy,
Super high speed.
just like the first guy.
Super. I mean,
Very high speed, very strong, very fast.
He has a daughter. Super, and he seemed super gentle, super kind. Like he wasn't forceful, nothing. Super, and I respected that.
Yeah. So what happened?
So this character, we had an understanding that, okay, I like you, you like me, but we're both about to PCS, so nothing is going to happen, nothing of that sort.
Yeah.
Cool. So I loaned him my Jumpmaster book.
Mm-hmm.
And a while back ago. And then I was like, hey, let me get the book back and pass it on to soldiers here because you're going to go to Jumpmaster school when you get to your Ranger battalion.
Yeah.
So he lived on base in that little housing area by the shop at.
Yeah.
And I remember that night it was raining, and I brought the movie 13 Hours, and I think I brought like pizza or something like that. And I was like, hey, we just watch a movie, and then I'll roll out, whatever.
Yeah.
And that would be like our last goodbye. Take care. Stay safe, all that jazz.
A very normal thing to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing weird or whatever. So
when did it go awry?
So it went awry when the movie ended.
Okay.
So I grabbed the Redbox movie. Mind you, 13 Hours is a very like hostage type thing or whatever.
Yeah.
There's nothing romantic about this. So
But he was gaining ideas, huh?
I don't know how. I have questions. He starts feeling himself first. And I was like, what are you doing? Yeah, it was super weird.
Not like Beyonce?
No.
No?
Okay.
Like physically and literally?
Yes.
Okay.
And I was like, nope, let me just go ahead and grab this movie and it's time to go. Let me get the book and I'm heading out. And he asked me to help him fill up an air mattress in the other room because Household Goods has taken his stuff. I think all he had left was like a TV and a sofa. I think he was selling or whatever. So in my mind, I was like, are you incapable of figuring out an air mattress, but you can pass Ranger School? I'm confused.
Yeah.
But I was like, whatever. I live on base, in my mind. Excuse me. Why is this guy going to jeopardize everything he's worked for what? So help him with the air mattress. And as I'm leaving, he basically picks me up and tries to take me back to the room. And I was like, so this guy had condoms tucked in random places too. Like he started trying to pull condoms out from like under the sofa cushion. Like it was tucked away in some weird places where I was like, yo, this feels like a setup. What is happening right now?
Jesus.
Freaking weird, man. And that was my cue where I was like, let me just get the book and go, man. That's all I want.
But you weren't able to get the book and go.
No, he just kept, like, I would make it to the front door, and try to unlatch it, open the door, and walk out to my car, and he would close the door and lock it again.
Which is a genuine physical abuse trait. Yeah.
I remember having to kind of, like, smooth talk, because I had never seen him angry before, and I didn't want to see him angry. I didn't, again, this dude just passed Ranger School.
Yeah.
Again, 5'3", $120 at this point.
So you smooth talked him?
Oh, yeah. It was definitely, like... Because he kept picking me up and trying to take me back to the other room. And I was just like, okay, don't piss him off. Just get the book.
I'm always kind of amazed at what gets through to people when they're in those modes. Because I'm going to be doing another podcast in the future with someone. And I'll let her tell the full story. But essentially, something very similar happened where a guy trapped her in her room, his room. And he wouldn't let her leave. And she had to say... I have to take my medication right now or I'm going to go crazy. And for some reason, like she said all these sorts of things, but that got through to him.
Yep.
So you obviously had to smooth talk, really crazy talk.
Yeah.
Your way out of that situation.
I slipped out that door so quick because I literally several times I tried to open the door and he would close it and somehow think it was cute. So I eventually speed walked. I got the book, funny enough.
Yeah.
Speed walked to my car. Take myself back to my room. The next day, he hits me up on Facebook saying, "Hey, so sorry about last night. Are you gonna file a sharp complaint on me?" And when I read that, I was like, "Oh, so you know what you did was wrong."
Yeah.
That was the first time since everything had
disgusting.
happened that they were like admission was a thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I told him I wasn't because I didn't want to jeopardize any of us getting out of here. I wanted to make sure I was leaving Bragg. I don't care about you. But what if they keep me here for the investigation? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
that's
that was
one
my
of the
fear.
many reasons not to report, because if you report something, you have a flag put on your record, and you have to stay put in the duty station that you initially
Right.
started the
There's
investigation.
no way. There was no way that was going to happen.
Yeah, your orders to where you wanted to go would have been gone immediately.
Yeah, I would have lost my mind. It wasn't worth the risk. Even if they changed that now, it was like, nah, no, thank you. So I PCS. I get to my first assignment. I arrive in September, and I don't tell anybody. I start off hard charging, right? I mean, killing it at my job because that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? Work ethic.
Yeah.
I don't tell anybody until November of 2016.
Okay, so everything started in 2015.
July 2015.
So a whole year. Mm-hmm. You haven't told anybody anything. Mm-hmm. Let's do a little bit of a deep dive into that. Mm-hmm. You haven't told anybody anything. You've put your job first. You've been drinking a lot. You're still unbelievably trusting to some degree.
Because you have to be. Like,
Because
I try not to think. I kept trying to be like, okay, not everybody's like that. Because it's not healthy to be paranoid.
I would say, honestly, you're probably, your thought might have been something along the line, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a victim here.
Right.
You know? And if I'm not a victim here, I don't have to worry about anything. So with all of that said, you know, when 2016 did come around finally, and you're in a place that's not Bragg, all right? So I'm gonna parallel this. When I left Bragg, it took me 4 to 5 months of a new thing, a new slow pace. Everybody's retiring here. Everybody's relaxed here. The privates don't go to parade rest because the chief of whatever department I'm in doesn't want that, you know, like everybody goes to behavioral health. Everybody has appointments all the time. All of a sudden, I started to gain back my humanity. And when I started to gain back my humanity, it was only then that I started to process what had happened in Bragg.
Yep.
Because we all have our own story coming out of Bragg.
Absolutely.
So do you feel like you were safe finally?
I feel like any distraction that I could possibly have was gone, and now I had to deal with everything. Now I had to deal with myself and the shambles of everything and the craziness. I had to deal with all the shenanigans in my head, and I had to deal with, I didn't have nothing to distract me. Even if I was at work, I mean, it was so much more slow paced to where, once I'm done with work, they'd be like, all right, go home. And it was like, wait, what?
Yeah, and you don't have to think about work.
Right. Or if I was sick, they'd be like, hey, you're sick, go home.
Yeah.
You know, just...
Yeah.
That humanity started coming back, and I realized how little sleep I was getting. I would wake up at 5 or 6, go to the gym, work all day, work late, work out in the evening, and try to burn off this energy to try to get some sleep, and it was not working.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to find a sense of normalcy, physically, and I realized that a lot of it was just something going on up here, and I was like, man, the fact that I couldn't sleep, it felt like something was choking me because I was just bottling up. I'm fine, but I'm not fine. Because anytime I'd have an interaction with people, it would never go past the surface.
Yeah.
And anybody that would try to go past it would just be like, you don't want to see what's under there.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I remember the one time that I had prolonged interaction with you was a CQ shift. And I don't even know if you remember this, but somebody actually did something to you on that shift.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
I remember that day clear. It was freaking weird.
Yeah, and I remember I wasn't as good at it as I am now, but I tried to probe a little bit below the surface with you, and you were just, you know, all I could get from you was that you're a very bubbly, happy person, you know?
Yeah.
You did a really good job of making it seem like you were totally fine.
Because the question is, if I'm not that bubbly, happy person, it was like, then what am I? You're telling me I'm not happy? Are you telling me that something horrible happened? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. You'll no longer have control over your emotion.
Yeah.
If anybody gets to determine what you are before you do.
And it's like, does anybody care enough to walk me through whatever that looks like? Because it was like uncharted territory.
Let's talk about that. That's a heavy burden. When you begin a relationship with somebody who has trauma like that, it's a heavy burden. And I know that in my own personal experience of being in a relationship with someone who has trauma very similar to yours, there are multiple times where I try so hard to get past a certain point, or not physically, emotionally, and unless she's ready for it,
right.
there's no way that we're getting past that point. And I've been stubborn, I've been a dick, and I've been all sorts of things. I've been very mean sometimes about it, because when you have a long-term relationship with somebody and you want to get past a point, you want to learn more, you want to feel more, you want to invest more, you get frustrated. That doesn't mean it's right, but
it's how you're trying to.
It's very hard because it is a burden. I'm constantly aware of the fact that, hey, I came into this knowing.
Right.
I came into this knowing. So if I just shut that door and I'm pissed off and I don't want to talk to you anymore, I'm doing a lot more damage.
Absolutely. The best thing you can do is be consistent and be there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I experienced the opposite of that, more of hey, the less she talks about it, the less she brings it up, it's not really that serious of an issue. And it's no, you don't understand. This is affected my whole life and every bit of who I am and my, it touches every part of who you are, and you don't realize it until you start going back. Yeah. And I can say the first experience, it took something from me that I didn't know was possible to be taken. And I don't know how to put that into words because it just felt like a loss. It just felt like you just took something from me.
If you had to describe the thing that was taken in the simplest of terms.
It felt like my soul. Who I am, my being, obviously, but it felt like who I was. The joy part of me. You took my joy. You took my happiness. You took, my self-securing part. You took the part of me that was basically, the movie Inside Out? Mm-hmm. It's you took the main character out. You took the person that kept everything balanced out. Mm-hmm. You just took her, and now everybody's just lost in the sauce, and we're just what is going on?
Yeah.
And I don't even know if that's something that could really come back. I think I'm learning that it's something that has to be slowly built into something new.
So a rebuild.
Yeah, I read this thing that was you need to let go of who you were and stop trying to get back. I was so mad when I read it, but basically the concept was stop trying to go back to who you were. That person's not coming back. You need to be you need to grow into who you are now. And I was so mad because I was but what about who I was? I was so great, and it was that person's gone. And that I think that's the hardest part, is knowing that person's gone. That's she's not coming back. She can't come back.
Yeah.
And that was such a hard thing to even process. Just knowing that the thing I had been working hard to get, which was who I was, it's not happening. And so I finally told my best friend, and I was crying. I remember telling her in the locker room on the phone, I was texting her at work or whatever, and just bawling and hoping nobody would come in. And I felt so much better. And that's when I realized I was this really happened, because the fact that when I tell somebody I feel lighter and I feel a release, it was this is what truth is.
Yeah.
So that's when I was okay.
I mean, when we speak things out into existence,
right,
it's real.
It is.
Words are extremely powerful.
You try to deny it all you want, but truth when you hear it.
Yeah.
You know when you're being honest with yourself, and when you're lying to yourself. It's a difference. I mean, the sad part is you may not want to accept that reality, but
yeah, it
is what it is. So I also tell, there was somebody else I met at Bragg. This was before you guys deployed.
Yeah.
So I knew him at Bragg. I think we went out once or twice, and we just kind of got separated with work or whatever. Mm-hmm. So we kind of reconnected before I left Bragg, mm-hmm. just as friends. And then I told him what happened, because I was kind of on this thing of I think I gotta tell more people. I think I gotta.
And this was all in 2016.
2016. This was November 2016.
Okay.
So I started telling people, or I started just telling those two people, and just being what do I do about it?
You didn't tell any leadership at this point?
No.
Okay.
No.
You just told people that were close to you?
Correct.
Okay.
So at this point, there was somebody at work that was a senior leader that kind of noticed I would be kind of super alert. I ended up telling him because he just asked. And that's the funny part is nobody ever asked. So I told him. And the sad part is he ended up being a character in itself. Basically, he was mad that I wouldn't date him, so he started spreading ugly rumors about me. Yeah, which sucked because it felt more violating, because you know what I had gone through, and on top of that you're spreading these really ugly rumors, and it hurts me. Like, now I feel targeted again, and I'm trying to be in a safe place, and I'm at this point I filed a restricted report because I wanted to get help. I didn't want to care nothing about the reporting. I knew how Bragg was. I just wanted to get help. I just knew I wasn't sleeping, and then it just was so tense, and just,
Okay, so this is still in 2016?
2016.
All right, so restricted and unrestricted. A unrestricted report means that you report this to anybody, really. But a healthcare professional, MP, chaplain.
The unrestricted, yes.
The unrestricted. You could tell your chain of command.
Right.
And it basically is, everything is blown completely wide open. There is everybody knows, because that's just how it works.
Right. Well, if your command is good,
then everybody won't know. But if they're not good, and they tell the wrong
everybody
person,
and their mother,
it's gonna
absolutely
go everywhere. Mm-hmm. But a restricted report, on the other hand, you get access to medical care.
Right. Nobody knows. Nope. Your command doesn't even know your name. They just know somebody of a certain rank and gender has filed a report. And the victim advocate obviously knows.
Yeah.
And then they make sure you get the medical attention, mental health, whatever it may be, all that jazz.
So at this point, you didn't care about reporting the individuals, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's a choice. It's your choice.
Right.
You just wanted to have
help. Yes.
And what help were you looking for?
I knew I needed counseling. I knew I needed to talk to somebody. So I found this free women's health clinic that I would go to, and they give you like 10. It's actually close to Belvoir. It's at some hospital close by.
Okay.
And they deal with like domestic violence and child abuse and all that stuff, whatever. So I started seeing her. Shout out to her. And I was still in that crying early stage where I couldn't talk about none of it, and I was just still just in shock. But I knew I just needed a space to try to talk about it.
Yeah.
And the one thing she told me that has stuck with me and I found to be very true is, the more I talk about it, the more, dare I say, I own it, the more control I feel back of it.
Yeah.
And it's been very true, weirdly enough. Like, the hard part about saying it out loud is, it's freeing. But so she was a counselor. I knew I needed a psychologist. I needed professional help. I was like, this is deep, man.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
this counseling stuff is great, but it's surface level. I knew it was just like psychological, just mess in there. So we have a psych at where I work internally. And she kind of at the time, she was so cool. She was amazing. I was talking to her about some other family issues, just trying to be like, I don't know how to, still trying to figure out the balance of family and work or whatever.
Yeah.
And she was so super helpful. And I remember during our last session, I was like, I got to tell you something. She was like, what's up? And I told her, and I was like, I need help. And I was just crying in her office, and I could see her eyes well up, like,
It's emotional when somebody, because I mean, that's such an authentic thing, when somebody finally has that breakdown. Like, it's hard, even when you are an experienced healthcare provider, it's hard because those are real feelings and real pain.
And I knew she cared. Like, she would call me kiddo. Granted, she was young too, but it was nice that she cared. Like,
yeah,
that
it was very
her.
endearing.
Yeah. And we would deal with things slowly, because the first main issue that I really wanted to deal with was the anxiety that I was having was so bad that anytime I would run, it felt like I was reliving the trauma, because my heart would be racing again, and I would just want to cry and just, but I would have to run because I got to do this PT test or whatever it may be. And dealing with the anxiety of trying to sleep at night, knowing that, okay, I'm in a safe place now, but I hear everything, so I start seeing her for everything I had been through, and we're just like slowly, very delicately, because my biggest other issue was trying to emotionally connect, because anytime my brain would even try to think about what happened during the first assault, I felt like it was pulling the power cord, and it would just not remember. Yeah. Because even in remembering it, I remembered key moments, but I could not play it out in my head. My brain was just like, no, we are not remembering it. We are not doing this. So that's something I struggled with for a long, long time. And in doing this, in 2017, I decided to file an unrestricted report. because I came to the conclusion that if somebody else got hurt because I was scared to say something, I would feel terrible. And that was only after I had slowly started feeling like support and like I felt like I was like, okay, I'm climbing out of my hole and now I can look around and be like, who else can I, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't in a place before to even consider that.
Yeah.
But that was my motivation to be like, fine, we're going to do an unrestricted report, open this sucker up, you know?
Yeah. Were there any timeline restrictions that apply to the unrestricted report?
No, I mean, they always say the sooner the better. But to be honest, based on how these cases turned out, that's kind of irrelevant. It really just comes down to...
So, to clarify quickly...
You can report it.
Not one of your cases...
Not one.
...ever got seen through in the end. In fact, one of your cases that you had told me about was shut down, after a couple of
30
weeks?
days.
30 days. 30
With
days.
no explanation.
And the lawyers don't have to give you an explanation, right?
Trial counselors command nobody owes me anything. I have it all in email. I saved everything. Yeah, it was rough. I think going through the legal process was mentally more, I don't say it's mentally more painful, but it was like worse than what I had actually gone through, because I will tell my story 100 times because I made that decision when I went unrestricted. I was like, I know what it's going to cost me. Okay, let's do this. I didn't realize a lot of the pushback was going to be from trial counselors.
Yeah. Because you think that they're there to help you. I mean...
Right. You think they're going to treat you like a victim, where it's like, hey, we're coming in as like, we believe you, and our job is to figure out, be objective in a sense of get the whole story.
Would it be safe to say that they don't treat you... Victim is a weird word, right? Because I have a hard time with the word victim. I don't like to feel like a victim. And yet, oftentimes I am a victim. The other day, I was actually getting my own therapy, and my therapist was like, do you know what you call a victim who's alive? And I was like, I don't fucking know. And she's like, you call him a survivor.
That word makes me cringe too, because it's like...
But it's like, it's so real. It's very true, because then she was like, well, what do you call a victim that's dead? And I'm like, I don't know. A corpse. Like,
Right.
it's that's the truth. Like, you did survive something, and it feels cringy because it's so overplayed. We say a survivor of this and a survivor of that, oh, I'm an ally of this and an ally of that. They're very played over words, and the reality is it's because there's no real emotional connection to these words anymore.
Yes.
Because we put them on anything and everything. It's like, oh, I love my wife and I love macaroni and cheese.
Right.
Very overplayed.
Absolutely. I think that's pretty spot on, because even hearing, like, by definition, yes, I am a survivor. But that emotional connection is not there to even feel pride in that. It just feels like, don't put that label on me.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel empowering.
It doesn't.
There's nothing empowering about it.
Which is not to say that it isn't. I think it's just how we're programmed to.
It's just the feeling of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would be the word that you... What would be the word that you would call yourself, and what do you think the word is that they treated you like?
I feel like I'm a fighter. I feel like they treated me like a joke. Like I wasn't important. Granted, my lawyer was phenomenal. I had 3 lawyers through the whole process. Because she ended up going on like a different assignment, and then one got out the Army, and then the last one, she was great. The first and last were great. The middle one was different character.
Okay.
She was super supportive, super understanding. She was with me talking through CID and all that. She kind of helped me understand and the legal process and all that. And in my mind, because I'm so good at emotionally detaching, I knew that when it came to talking to CID and stuff like that, they don't want or need my emotions. They want facts. So in those moments of telling them what happened, it was like, okay. Tell them what happened, get the facts, and then I can breathe later. I can panic later. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to give you what you need. You don't need my crying tears, but I definitely broke down crying. I definitely did. But
so, okay, another question. I think that maybe ties back to 2 things. The whole, they need the facts, which obviously they do need the facts, and you don't want to cry in front of them. But I think that ties back to 2 things. One is that in the military, we are taught your feelings don't fucking matter. I don't give a shit about your feelings. You're going to do what I say.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you what to do. Right. The other part of that is that you're a child of immigrants,
Yeah.
you know? And from other people that have immigrated or are first generation, American, even being just a Mexican ethnicity myself, there are differences among certain cultures where they breed. You are not a victim. Even if you are a
That's right.
victim, you're not
You don't
a
let
victim.
nobody treat you or label you as a victim.
Yeah, like before we even started the podcast, I remember we started talking about, if you're going to cry, that's fine, but you're not going to cry in front of your enemies. There ain't no goddamn
Don't
way
let
you're going to cry.
nobody see you cry.
Nobody,
Right.
which is almost, it's a wonderful thing, just like we were talking right before we started. It's a really good thing, but it becomes a really bad thing later on in life. And like I've been told by my therapist, even, she says, the things that were your defense mechanisms as a child, they were wonderful. You needed them, but you can't continue to use defense mechanisms that are the exact same as an adult, because then they're detrimental.
Right.
They
end up holding you back from everything you want.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, I guess one of my questions is, do you feel that being of your ethnicity, being raised by immigrants, has that ever played a part in the way that you think that you've dealt with this situation?
I think so, in a sense of, I think I saw it as like, we get through tough situations. Like, we're going to get through this. There is no option of failing. There is no not making it. The alternative is just not acceptable.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think, was kind of unsaid rules. It's just kind of like, no, this is the standard that's set. There is no alternative.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is, okay, if I decide to deal with this and I let my career fall to the wayside because I'm trying to take care of first of all, self-care, mental health. What?
Yeah.
What is that? Therapy. What?
Don't need that shit. Talk to God.
Right. Pray. Pray.
Not knocking on that.
No, but here's the thing. What I realize is, absolutely pray, but God has also given us therapists.
Yeah.
And psychologists, like professionals who are trained and have training and understanding the psyche, and it can help you. Like, why can't you do both? Why can they not complement each other? Like,
I mean, some people are just emotionally intelligent and gifted at it.
Right.
Let those people who are gifted with
Excel.
these what feel like supernatural gifts,
please,
help people.
And they are phenomenal. God bless them.
Yeah.
What?
Nobody likes them, but when they need them, they're always there.
I feel like they don't like them because they need them and they know how much they need them.
I mean, introspection is very hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. Like, even in my last therapy session, I was talking almost as if it was a story that I was talking about instead of myself. And I like mine because she's very she's Mexican too, and I like that because she often calls me on my bullshit. She's like, "Well, how about you talk about it like it's you that you're talking about?"
Right. How about you not disconnect?
And I'm just like, fine, whatever the fuck you want, but thanks, because you're keeping me on track, yo.
Yeah.
Like,
my last therapist, she was like, you have mastered disassociation and like distraction. Like, I will divert topics. She'd be like, so can we talk about this today?
Oh,
like,
yeah, for
ma'am,
sure.
You came in for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative because it's that painful guidance you need, and that
very
genuine
painful.
care. Yeah. But the results from it are so worth it.
Yeah. I mean, if you can push yourself. And that's the thing I don't like about that term victim either, because I used to feel like a victim, like I was making myself a victim by going and getting therapy. But now I'm like, bro, if you don't get therapy and you know or think you might need it, you're just self-sabotaging.
Absolutely.
That's all you're doing. Like,
and everybody else around you.
Exactly. You're not helping anyone.
Not at all. You're just like drinking poison thinking that you're hurting somebody else. Like, what are you doing?
It's almost like the airborne Kool-Aid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
If I whip myself harder, I will get the promotion.
Like, that's not how that works.
No, that's not how it works at all. But anyway, kind of coming back on track.
So I start going through the legal process.
Yeah.
So the way the cases are handled is the investigation happens where the assaulter is.
Yeah.
So all these investigations happened at BRAC. Now, I told my lawyer and CID, hey, I do not trust 82nd. Okay. As far as I understand the culture code, I understand it's a predominantly male environment. I understand a lot of it is protective, a lot of hiding, a lot of, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of great things about the 82nd that you hold at a high standard, and it's something that I don't let nobody talk bad about, but there are absolutely flaws and places where they fall short, and a lot of that comes to handling ugly situations like that.
Yeah, no,
and
absolutely.
holding people accountable.
Yeah, first and foremost, if you've never served in the 82nd, go shut your goddamn mouth.
Absolutely.
Go fuck yourself if you think that you have any right to tell me anything about that unit.
Right. Only internal 82nd people can bash 82nd. Yeah. For sure.
That's it.
And even then, we have our limits, like, what you're not going to... It's like talking about family.
Yeah.
I can talk about my family. You
you don't get to talk about my unit. You don't get to talk about my brigade or my battalion.
I think not.
You know, but then on top of that, yeah, there are definitely... maybe someday I'll do a podcast particularly about this one NCO that I had. Yeah. Anyone who knows me knows exactly what I'm talking about. The woman tried to destroy my life. She did not. She was not successful.
Yes, because you're here.
Because I'm here. But she was probably the most toxic human being I've ever met in the entirety of my life. And I've met some pretty god-awful people. I mean, just god-awful. And she ended up going to... it was either Equal Opportunity or IG. I can't remember which one.
And that's a scary part. They end up sending a lot of people who are violators directly into those programs, thinking that it's somehow going to change them, not realizing that you've just empowered them to protect people like them. Like, what are you doing?
100%.
You can't send somebody to EO that's an EO violator and think that's going to change them.
Yeah.
What?
So EO, so I'm an EOL, which is an Equal Opportunity Leader. That means that I can resolve minor conflicts between soldiers and deal with those kind of things, which I'm in a unique position to be able to do that. And I couldn't believe it how many people were there because they're like, well, you know, I violated EO about X, Y, and Z.
Like it's some kind of punishment.
So I'm here. But then I was also very surprised at how many people were there because they truly 100% like it's kind of a different generation now, I think, because a lot of the staff sergeants and sergeant first classes that were there, they were like, I have kids that are going through these things that are my children.
Personal.
And I want to protect and help the kids that are going through this stuff in our units.
Yep.
You know, because that stuff is real.
They take it personal, and I have somebody in my agency now that he wants to be in EOL, and because of how he's been treated before. So he's Puerto Rican, and he has an accent when he speaks.
Yeah.
And he gets, in his previous units, he's been told, learn how to speak English. And first of all, if you speak one language, don't you ever get on nobody else for having an accent while speaking multiple languages. Secondly, fix your ears, because I can understand him. Anyway.
It's not that hard.
But it was such a personal thing where it was like, you'd be a great EO because you understand.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That part. I knew that was going to be a challenging part when CID was doing their investigation. I remember when everything kind of went public, my chain of command was phenomenally supportive. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Because I was like, they see me as this hard charging soldier. What happens when this comes out? Oh my God. But they were so supportive. And I don't know that I expected them not to be, but I don't know what I expected either. Yeah. But they were amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So my NCO, I let him know, my direct NCO would be like, hey, this is what I'm going through, just so he can be aware, like when I have appointments, when I have to go to see my lawyer or therapy or whatever, because I had just started going consistently to therapy. It was like a couple times a week. Man, it was rough. A lot of the therapy was trying to deal with the stress from the legal aspect. Yeah. Because it would take them like 6 months before we got an update on any type of investigation. It was like, what are you guys doing? Why am I getting updates from people at Bragg before you are? It was ridiculous. So, fast forward some time. This was 2017, at the end of 2017. Y'all got back from your deployment. I think because you guys were there for like, 9 months or whatever.
Yeah, 9 months.
And then the guy I had been talking to back at Bragg, me and him had got pretty close. Whatever. He'd been very supportive of me reporting it, and he'd always been like genuinely asking me like, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? What's going on? Just checking up on me. And I would check up on him too. I appreciated that consistent thing. I mean, he'd asked me out before, but I was like, no. And then once I kind of explained why, he was very supportive in my recovery. So y'all got back, I think, August. And then I went down to Bragg September sometime frame, whatever it was. And we had an understanding beforehand, like, hey, sex is off the table because I am dealing with my stuff. and I feel good not having sexual contact. I feel good, feel more whole, and just clarity.
Yeah.
So I see him. Granted, he's taller than me. This dude was huge. Y'all work out way too much on deployment. He came back. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
dude.
Everyone
like
came
Dwight
back
Howard.
huge.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw all the workout stuff you guys were doing there, but Jesus,
I came back skinny.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. No. So he was strong enough. Case a visual would be like he was box squatting 340 by the time he was back in North Carolina, which is like, whoa.
It's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
That's like damn near triple my weight. He's a big dude. You know, he seemed super gentle, never yelled, never got mad, you know, just, and seemed like a good dude.
Yeah.
And we had both like the same faith understanding as far as like we both believe in God. So he would help me be like, hey, like let's pray together or whatever it was. And
did you feel like you were evenly yoked with him? You ever heard that term?
yeah. So I feel like as far as where I was at that moment, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like had everything gone smoothly, he could have been that person that was like, okay, I can be your, like, the rock when you're being weak right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll help you stand up when you're weak type thing. And, like, iron sharpens iron type thing. Like, I'm really dull right now, and I need you to help keep me focused. And that's, I felt like I was just so grateful for that, you know? And, he had earned my trust. So I go down to see him, and we were hanging out at some place off Yakin somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed for the weekend, and the first night I got there, like, you know, he's super excited to see me, this and the other, but as soon as he sees me, you know, we get up to the room or whatever, because there were 2 beds intentionally, like, we had clearly discussed this, and I told him if at any point he feels uncomfortable, doesn't feel like he can contain himself, like, I'll leave, bro, I'll drive myself back, no problem. As soon as we get in the room, like, he starts kissing me and, like, pushing me on the bed, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought we said we were going to wait. I thought, you know, we were an understanding, and he was like, I don't want to wait anymore. And I was like, wait, but what about me? Like,
that's such a weird concept. I want to break that down a little bit because I feel like oftentimes men get in trouble. They get criticized by women, right? They're like, if a man says, hey, if you don't want to have sex, I don't want to be with you, right? That's not wrong if we look at it from a certain perspective, right?
If you're honest about it,
if you're honest and you say, if you don't want to have sex with me, that's fine, but I don't want to be with you because I need sex. It's a physical thing that I need.
Right.
It's something that I want from a relationship. I want to feel fulfilled.
Right.
And when you put it in that light, it's kind of a different way of looking at it, but it's...
Right. Tell me that. That's
It's
fine.
basically like pretending that you're a gay man because you want to get close to women and then you want to date them, right? When you lie and say, oh, no, not having sex is totally fine.
Right.
You know, like, oh, that's totally... Because you're expecting oh, what? Because I get closer to you,
right.
You're going to suddenly somehow change your mind?
Right.
You know, like
did you think I was kidding when I said this? Did you think this was like one of those, like, no, but actually yes? Like, what does that even mean?
It's like a ruse. They think that if...
It's not a game.
I don't want to say, like, everyone, but you know, like, if you wait them out, you know, like, they'll eventually, you know...
And that's why I say I think a lot of what I went through wasn't taken. I felt like it was taken as a joke because it's like you're not really seeing past a smiling person. I'm telling you my pain. Don't believe it. I'm telling you don't believe the smile because it's muscle memory. I'm telling you what's really going on.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, you're not connecting the two. Like, it baffled me.
Yeah.
So I remember that night where I was just like so disappointed because I was like, are all guys like this? Like, is this every guy?
I'd like to say no.
I'd like to say no too.
Yeah.
But it just was like, why? You know, I was just so sad and disappointed, and I was just like, fuck it. Like, it must be every guy that's like this. So whatever. He finishes, and I'm just kind of like...
Oh, wait. So he...
Yes.
He raped you?
Yes.
Jesus.
So I would say more so like... I would say it was rape because it was like I didn't want to. It didn't seem like I really had a choice. Like, it was like, what option are you giving me?
So not only did he do what he did, okay, you had told him
Absolutely.
about all of the other people.
Yep. And he knew the therapy I was going through. He knew the legal struggles I was going through. He knew I was in a vulnerable state.
So
So
he took more, almost, I would say.
it
Possibly.
felt like I didn't matter. Like, that's what it felt like. It felt
Yeah.
like even if I'm trying to tell myself that I matter, the person who was the closest to me was telling me, "Oh, not really."
Yeah.
You know, which kind of sucked because it's like I'm trying to build my little blocks here. You're just knocking them down, and
Yeah.
but he was also like the closest person to me at the time because nobody else close knew besides him and my best friend and the immediate people that needed to know because of the investigation. So he was stationed down at Bragg. I was stationed up here, and the distance helped because eventually when I left, I was like, okay, there's a physical distance.
Yeah.
This probably won't happen again. And he apologized, and
But he knew what he did.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
why he
yeah.
apologized.
He more so apologized, like, I'm sorry for putting you in that situation. I'm like, whatever, yo. But I also
I'm
didn't want to
sorry
lose a
for
friend.
putting you in that situation.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for putting you in that situation.
right.
I'm
like,
sorry.
like I just covered for him for like, oh, you snuck in the house late. And
Yeah.
you know, like this is,
thank you for lying for me when I stole all the
Yeah.
cookies, you know? What the fuck?
Oh, it gets better. So, some time passes. In my mind, I'm just hanging on to the only sense of closeness that I have. The
Yeah.
only type of like emotional feeling that I really, because I struggle so hard with feelings. There's so many human feelings. My God.
Yeah.
So, I'm still doing therapy at this point. I'm still going through the legal process. I mean, these trial counselors at Bragg are cold-hearted.
They're ripping you to pieces, huh?
So I don't mind being questioned. I'll tell my story again 100 times, 1,000 times, whatever it may be. But so what they basically told me was, hey, because you had a TBI. In fact, hold on.
Yeah, I was hoping that you would bring
a-
this back
I
up.
sure did I made a list of 5 reasons why they told me 2 of my cases got dropped.
I'm really glad that you made that.
Because the fact that they blamed my TBI, I was like, okay, we're going to write everything down then. That's what we're going to do. Let's see if I can pull it up.
5 reasons that they dropped your case.
Oh, it was garbage.
Yeah, I remember the TBI being very important to all this, because when you were talking to me about it, you had said that because of your TBI, they determined that you weren't quite with it enough.
Right. They
And
said I wasn't
therefore-
credible.
Oh my God.
Which is insane because, like, a TBI doesn't mean I make up things that happen. It just means I got a head injury. It means I have blank spots and, like, I can't remember specific details, but I can remember what I can remember. I remember clear as day. Hold on, I think I gotta. I hear static.
Yeah, I was probably interfering with it. Yeah, I was telling that to somebody, and they lost their shit essentially hearing that. They're like, how could you treat a TBI the same way that you would treat alcohol? Just because there's alcohol involved doesn't mean that that's, that dismisses the problem.
Absolutely.
You find your list?
I'm connecting to the hotspot.
Oh, okay.
The Wi-Fi.
Gotcha.
Okay, here we go. All right, so are you ready for this?
Yes.
The 5 reasons why they stopped investigating the first assault,
Okay.
and they told me because I wasn't credible for the first assault, they stopped investigating the next assault. Now, the first reason, I didn't tell my doctor about it at the Women Wellness. Now, mind you, I didn't tell the doctor because he's not a partner. That being said, before I left Bragg, I had went back to the gynecologist because I wanted to do one last checkup, and I was kind of panicky, and I wanted to tell him what happened. And as soon as I walked in there, he was kind of upset at me, and he was like, why are you here? You were here a couple of months ago. You don't need to be here. You already had your exam. And he walked out. And I was like,
So it broke your confidence.
absolutely, because I was like, what just happened? Like, can I not show up to a woman wellness appointment? Can I not go to gynecology when I feel like I do not think I'm here for a reason? It was just so frustrating because
Yeah.
I'm not here for my own fun. Like, I'm at the PCS. So the next reason was, when I did the report, I didn't report everything in one day. I reported the first assault the first day and then the other assaults the following day. Now, the reason that happened was because After I reported the first assault, I spoke with my commander because he was checking up on me. And he was like, hey, if something bothers you, say something about it. Don't not say anything because there's a lack of evidence.
Yeah.
Which was huge. I was like, really? I can do that? Like, don't report anything based on, just report it because it happened. Because it bothers you that it happened. So they said the third reason was because I could have changed my mind in the moment and didn't remember that I changed my mind.
I mean, were you writing memorandums? Were you
For what?
for any of this? I mean, like you had to.
Oh, I had to put in a whole IG complaint.
Okay, yeah. So then how? Okay.
No, they said that they're saying that I could have changed my mind in the moment of the assault. Like when I was like, no, for a moment I could have been like, okay.
So okay, but that is that's pretty problematic for me because what do you call married rape?
Still rape.
It's still rape.
Right.
Like, you know, there are several times that, like, does it frustrate me to no end when my partner says, yeah, I want to have sex, and then they change their mind? Yeah, of course it does, because I was all hyped up, I was excited, I was ready, you know, like, let's get it, girl, you know,
right.
But
the thing is,
but they change their mind,
right?
Which,
like, first of all, are you not allowed to change your mind? Secondly, that wasn't even the scenario. Like, I never said yes or suggested a yes to begin with. So why is that even a thought?
I don't know.
So the next reason was because the NCO that I had told, that senior NCO I told you about, I mentioned him in the CID report as far as like, hey, I told him this, that, and the other. But he was still upset about the fact that I didn't want to date him, that he told them false information that contradicted what happened to me. Now, mind you, I didn't even tell him details of what happened with the assault. I just told him, hey, it happened in the barracks. It happened while I was at Bragg. And he filled in details of, like, God knows what. So because his story contradicted mine, they were like, oh, well, we don't know if you're telling the truth. The other reason was because I couldn't remember specific dates. And the problem is I can't remember specific dates because it was like a whole year and some change ago. Also, I had a TB at the time, so the timeline's a little blurry. But I told him, I was like, this happened first. This was after July 4th. You can check my medical records. You know what I'm saying? And kind of play the timeline back from there and figure it out.
Yeah.
But they were just like, no, just try to remember the date. And I was like, sure, here's a date. Yeah. But I don't remember. And the fact that they used that against me was just kind of like, are y'all not looking at these tapes? What the hell? Like, so those were their reasons for shutting down the case. When I tried to talk to the trial counselor, I was like trying to get them to reconsider. They said that my claims were baseless. So apparently this term baseless it's like a generic term. It doesn't mean that that it's actually baseless. That's just a term they use when there's like no probable cause. And even that again is a vague term.
Yeah.
Because the sucky part is like, when I made these reports, you can physically tell, like, this is not a game. This is taking a physical toll on me. Like, to share this, to even what I'm going through is not because I made up a story, you know? So some of the trial counselors were super, like, rude. I remember one trial counselor told me, he was like, you need to just accept it and get over it. It was bad. It was, like, I feel like they forgot that they were talking to a victim. And so at this point I had swapped to a new lawyer because that lawyer got transitioned to a different assignment. Mm-hmm. And the lawyer that I had at the time, she was, okay, we're not putting names out. She was incompetent, to say. Okay. I felt like my cases weren't taken seriously because they were at the end of their process. And I felt like I wasn't a priority, so it didn't matter. So when I would try to contact her, so like I remember one time 3 months had passed, and I was trying to contact her for an update and trying to appeal and, you know, just trying to be like, can I do everything I can before I let this go? And she got out the Army and closed my cases before she got out. Like, I got a termination letter of legal counsel. I was like, what? I had to call the Pentagon to find out.
That seems like a gross miscarriage of justice.
I was very upset. and like the emotional toll of dealing with that, plus the assault. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just so much. Mind you, in all of this, I'm still going through school because I'm just trying to graduate. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to, and still killing it at work, still trying to keep it together to where nobody would know, and my family doesn't know. At this point, I'm still just like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
So January 2018 comes around.
Mm-hmm.
That same guy that I was dating, he comes up to visit to the DC area. And again, we made it very clear, hey, look, sex is not on the table. Please don't cross this line. Like, at this point, it was like more pleading, because it was like, please don't make me have to cut you off, because you are my only support. You're the only person that knows.
Yeah.
And I remember we went to the harbor, had a decent time, came back because it was too cold, and we figured we'd just watch the New Year's from inside where the Airbnb we were staying at.
Yeah.
And then I remember him kind of pushing to be like, well, let's try to have sex. And I'm just like, no, what do you mean try? What does that mean? And of course, it's like that emotional guilt of like, I feel like I'm not being a good girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which is insane, by the way. Like, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do, and you can set your standard, and if they're not okay with it, you're free to want what you want and part ways if they don't match, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So I like kind of gave in, and I was like, okay, but if at the moment I say get off, you need to get off. Like, if I'm not, because my body was still at a point where it was just rejecting intimacy and contact, and just like, I needed my space. I needed to feel safe just being in the same space as a guy, let alone anything past that.
Yeah.
The most I can handle was like hugs and cuddles and stuff like that. So we try, and then it was just like a second later, I'm like, all right, you need to get off. And he doesn't listen. And I'm like trying to kick him off, like physically, like trying, but this dude is strong. Like, I am trying to push him off. And he's just like ignoring me when I'm just like, hey, stop, get off. Like, this hurts. And he's ignoring me. He finishes. And I was in so much pain that I could not walk for 3 days. Like, it wasn't till the third day that I was able to start walking with some kind of reduced pain. Like, I couldn't pee. I couldn't, like, walking. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Shout. Oh, my God. I was definitely like, if this pain doesn't go down in a couple days, I need to go to the hospital. I remember asking him for, like, Motrin, and then he was mad at me because I was in pain and I was in a bad mood. And he was like, why are you in a bad mood? And I'm just like, do you not see me laying here, like, in pain?
Yeah, and it makes sense, too, that would be the physical response, because I remember when we talked about this last, we had discussed that the body will shut down, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, our body is meant to preserve itself. So
Right.
when you have a trauma, specifically sexually related, one of the things that your body can, specifically the vagina, what it can do,
It'll tighten up.
it will tighten up so that nothing can happen to
Right.
it. You know, it's protecting itself. Your
Right.
brain is telling you, no, shut
No.
down. This is not happening.
Right, you're trying to
So-
just, like, tense up.
The fact that somebody shoved through that anyway,
Oh, the pain.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine, but I can empathize. You know.
Yeah, and the shitty part about all of that is that at that point, I felt like it started becoming my norm.
To be
Abused.
sexually abused.
Yes, because this is like one experience after another, after another, after another. It was just like, I felt like desensitized to it almost.
Yeah.
And again, the distance helped. He was my only support system.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel like I could tell my family because we had our own things that we were going through. We
Yeah.
weren't all getting along necessarily. Like, it just wasn't the right, like, I wouldn't have been able to deal with their emotions plus mine. Like, I had grown up kind of ahead of my years. So
Yeah.
to a certain extent, I would have felt more responsible for them than for myself. Like, I wouldn't necessarily felt like the kid, you know? So
that makes sense. I understand that.
the struggle.
Yeah, I mean it's almost, and I hope this doesn't offend you, but it's almost a codependent struggle.
Absolutely.
It really is a codependent struggle. I struggle with this with my family. You know, I often feel like I'm going to put your needs first. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to, you know, like I'm going to make sure you can move in. I'm going to do this and that and whatever. You know,
Make sure you're good.
Make sure you're good, and oftentimes sacrifice my own.
Right.
Like, you know, I need to be taken care of too.
Right.
But who the fuck is going to do that?
Right.
You know, like It's just
Right.
what it is sometimes. And you have to create your own support system. And so when you've created your own support system that ends up abusing you as well, yeah, I could see how that'd be really
And so
just terrible.
in between those moments too, there were like a couple of harassment type situations going on. So
Yeah.
there was one time where our HR guy, we were at this salsa club thing with my little section. So as all of this is happening, I'm shrinking my inner circle smaller and smaller and smaller from
Yeah.
like the whole section to just where I work, to just the office of where I work, to just a few people in the office that I work. It's just a
Yeah.
smaller box. And we were out salsa dancing, and this guy showed up at the club, 6 foot something tall, picked me up in the middle of the club. And I don't know if he was drunk or whatever. I guess he was drunk. He put me back down or whatever. I got so upset because I was like, what are you doing here? Why are you here?
Yeah.
As I'm getting my coat to leave, he tries to corner me in a wall at the club. And he starts trying to kiss me, and I'm just like blocking my arm and trying to use my jacket to get out, and I just kind of wiggle my way out. I was so mad. Nothing happened to that guy. That fell under like the harassment thing. I don't know where he is right now. The other guy who was friends with him, initially I trusted him because he was the retention guy at our agency. He was the person to keep that HR guy in check. You know what I'm saying? Like he seemed to resemble what an NCO should be.
Yeah.
Then he ended up starting to cross that line where like he started putting his hand on my leg, just trying to like make suggestive type things. And then I remember one time he was about to PCS and I was at his place. We were all hanging out or whatever. Long story short, so we were hanging out, and he was just, his wife and kid had moved down to their home state. So, because he was going to like Kuwait for a year.
Yeah.
So he just had a couple of things in the house or whatever. And he would be like, hey, like basically like, let's have sex. And I remember one time he was like, I can bathe you and stuff. I was like, that's weird, bro.
That's really creepy.
That's freaking weird.
That's
Yeah,
really...
what am I do? Sit there in the tub and you just sponge bath? What the hell is that? Also,
I don't
married
understand.
people, what I don't do is step in between relationships.
Yeah.
Situationships, no.
What?
Just no.
Situationships?
Even if there's the idea of like, if somebody would be mad about me talking to you, I'm just not even gonna.
That's smart. That's really smart. I think that's a good idea.
That's always been my rule of thumb. So let alone a married person with a child, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I made that very, 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 very clear. And the crappy part was that his father was a pastor. Not to say that makes him a good kid, but I know he knows better.
You know,
like you have no excuse not to know. I know pastors' kids are usually like the worst ones, if you will.
Yeah, I'm technically a byproduct of a pastor family kid, so
That's funny.
Yeah, it is. It's not funny for them.
It's not. I'm sure.
No, it's not. But yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, like you know what I'm saying. You can't say you didn't know any better. So the crappy part is, I would tell him, I'd be like, I'm sorry, you want me to sleep with you in your bed where your wife sleeps? Are you sick? Like,
you know, there's a really interesting book that I've read that talks about the way that we dehumanize ourselves. It's Philip Zimbardo's The Stanford Prison Experiment. He also talks about the I think it's called Abu Ghraib or something like that. It's a prison that, you remember, like years and years back, there was a prison that they basically found that they were torturing. So he was the psychologist that was in charge of the analyzing of these people that got in trouble for that. But he made a lot of really, really great points about how we dehumanize others, and the only way to dehumanize others is to dehumanize ourselves in order to do that. And it's compartmentalization. I mean, one of my favorite lines in his book is, you know, a really great man can also be cheating on his wife because you're a great man, you're a great friend, you're a great brother, you're a great son,
right.
But you're able to compartmentalize this part of your life. And, you know, like a lot of these people, you know, we all do it. We all compartmentalize. We have to do it in order to stay safe and sane. But another part of it becomes this weird function that people overutilize in order to get what they want or do what they want or hurt whom they want. You know, it's a really interesting. It's sad that it's interesting, but it is interesting the fact that so many people
They find a way to justify those
they find a
things.
way to justify their wrongdoings.
And they it's sociopathic, really.
Yeah, there's a huge lack of empathy. I mean, because you think about it, like flirting, for instance, is a very normal thing to do. Flirting is a wonderful thing between two people who can empathize. You know, empathy being that understanding in
A
relationship
healthy
and
emotion,
a
right?
healthy emotional capacity of vibing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're vibing back and forth. You're reading me, I'm reading you.
We're reciprocating,
Exactly.
right? Now, if
And
it's one way,
that's not vibing,
it's
first of
weird,
all,
bro.
and that's not empathy toward anything.
Right.
Secondly, I mean, it's just overall a really, really terrible thing, and that's how we get that's how we get that disconnect from humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that
And
complete compartmentalization.
it was amazing to kind of see him be that way because he could be the family guy that would post family photos on
Yeah.
Facebook, and it was like, you were just trying to sleep with me. I mean, granted, nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Because what we don't do is mess with relationships, married people. First of all, the turn off that even is.
Yeah.
It's just a different discussion.
Yeah.
But he was comfortable to take off his wedding ring and just like, what is? It was amazing where I felt like his wife would be heartbroken because I knew her frustration and pain as far as like you're trying to hold your family together while your husband is about to go away, and it's like it hurts, you know. And just in my mind, I'm putting myself in her position. Like, why am I thinking about her feelings more than you are right now? It just blew my mind.
Because you have empathy.
Called a decent human being. So he would be in Kuwait trying to message me, and I was just like, you know what? This needs to stop. Block, delete, all that jazz. He's a drill sergeant now down at Jackson. Yeah.
Go lead those brand new privates.
Yeah.
This is the hard part about this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like I never wanted it to be defamatory
Right.
toward the military, and I very much wanted to be very sensitive to the individuals that we talk about and the places that we've worked and the organizations that we've been a part of, you know. But the other part of this podcast is we're human beings.
This is the truth, right?
This is the truth about,
This
you
is
know,
what happened.
like your story is, I mean, and I'm not demeaning it. It's one story of probably thousands,
Millions, dare I say.
millions of stories out there that have not been given the light, the time of day, or anything, because the
Right.
reality, it's kind of like the current climate that we're in right now. You're fatigued. It's rage fatigue, because it's just so often. You know,
Right.
these aren't one-offs. These
Right.
are, it's a constant climate.
It's not one bad apple. It's
No.
it's actually a spoiled bunch.
It's a fucking way of life for so many people, you know, and I'm not surprised. I don't think it's just the military. I think that it's any organization that's big enough to hide.
Right.
You know, because when an organization is big enough to hide in, one, you can hide in it, and two, there are enough people that are like you to cover for you.
Right.
You know,
You don't want to think your buddy is capable of doing something like that. You don't want to face that ugly fact of, wait, they were around my kid.
I can't even tell you how many times I've had to report a sexual assault, and the person that came to me was a soldier or a sailor, you know, because I work with sailors now. And the person that assaulted them was someone that I knew very well, and
Oh, that sucks.
became, you know, it's like, fortunately for me, I don't really care how much I know you. If somebody tells me that something happened and they seem authentic, I have no choice but to go further with it.
Right.
You know, I remember I had a situation here. I am not going to jump into any of the details of that, but I had a situation here, and I had just come back from Equal Opportunity School, and I happened to go through the course with the guy that runs the SHARP program. And I'm not a SHARP representative, but I know that if I'm in the chain of command, I have a specific thing I've got to do. So the first thing I did was, you know, I consoled her, and we figured out I said, if you tell me, I have to do something about it, you know. And she told me anyway, you know, and she was a tough woman, and it sucked to see her down and broken the way that she was. And my first phone call was to that guy, and I was like, hey, this happened, and I don't know what I have to do. You know, because honestly, like, yeah, we get training on this, but it's not the best training in the world.
It's not a real life walkthrough.
No,
What
it's
happens
not.
if it's the person you know? What if it's not like a random stranger? What if, because nobody from another battalion or another,
Yeah.
office is going to come to you and be like, I need help.
Yeah,
Like, it's.
it's the weirdest thing because we all have these posters and these things on the
Mm-hmm.
walls, you know, and it's like, oh, go here and go here and go here, but we don't have anybody in our chain of command saying, hey, listen, if you don't know what to do, come to my office.
Right.
Come to the first sergeant's office and
Right.
tell them, first sergeant, I know I'm bypassing everybody, but this is really serious and I don't know what
Absolutely.
to do.
Absolutely.
You know, because everybody's like, the thing is, like, when you get that complaint of, hey, I've been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I've been affected. I've been assaulted. I've been this or that. Like, your first thought isn't, let me go turn to this page in my manual and go do X, Y, and Z. It's like you panic.
Mm-hmm.
I panic every time, even though I know what the protocol is. Protocol is different every place I go.
Right.
And secondly, it's like, who do I get to go to that's not going to feel like I jumped over somebody's fucking shoulders?
Right.
Because I'm trying to just get the right fucking answer.
Right.
To do the right fucking thing for my soldier or my sailor. And even then, I'm getting my ass chewed out because...
Right, no support.
Yeah. Because,
And-
you didn't go to your first line.
Right.
I couldn't find my first line. I came here.
First line's on leave.
Yeah, I couldn't find my second line. I don't have his phone number.
Right, the
I don't know where
situation
his
doesn't
office
allow
is.
for that to happen. Like, I need an exception to policy here and help me help this person.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times the mentality is, well, there's a policy in place for that. There's a procedure that you have to take. Like, are you serious right now? This is not like a tactful plan of like an assault. Like, fam, we are talking about human beings and complex emotions, and every situation is different, and it's not going to be some law and order type thing where you find the victim laying somewhere. You know what I'm saying? The chances of somebody coming to you in this kind of environment is less because I feel like commands have to almost overemphasize their open door.
Yeah.
Because we work in so much of a place where the job is mission first.
Yeah.
And I know they say your job is take care of people, but you have a lot of people that a lot of leaders that forget that second portion of take care of. Nobody will ever get mad at you for taking care of your soldiers,
No.
of your sailors, of,
Well, that's
your
not
airmen.
true. They will.
Well,
sometimes
I mean,
they do get really mad.
They can get mad, but it's
Yeah.
also like they're not going to do nothing to you. Like, you're doing
Yeah.
your job.
I can say with full truth behind this statement, and no bitterness, just reality. In Fort Bragg, in the 82nd Airborne Division, whenever I came forward with a problem, a real problem, nobody ever told me that I was wrong for taking care of my soldiers.
Facts.
Ever.
Right. Not at all.
Now, whether or not my soldiers felt comfortable telling me a problem,
Mm-hmm.
that is another story. Because there have been times that I've not been approachable.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked very hard in the last 2 years to become very approachable. So if anybody that I've ever harmed in the sense of not making you feel safe, I'm sorry. I wish I could have done that.
It's all about growth, though. It's all about who you are now. And I think even taking the time to, one, give yourself the grace to be human, to be like, you weren't in a space where you could even realize that. And then realizing now that you're working on yourself and trying to catch those places where you're like, okay, I'm not very strong at empathizing with people. So let me try to put more of an effort into that.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing that, again, no bitterness, just reality. I can honestly say, I will not say the place that I'm stationed right now, but I will tell you that my chain of command, my climate that I'm involved in, very retaliatory. Very. And it's always shocking because they're like, they retaliate and then they just expect me to lay over. And because of my experience with that one NCO in Bragg, I remember I told myself as a young private, I will never allow another human being to treat me like this. I will never just take it ever again. Therefore, I utilize my open door policy. And every fucking time, everybody that's in my chain of command is shook. They're like, what do you mean you want to go to
to do it?
What do you mean you want to go talk to Sergeant Major?
What do you mean you want to stand up for yourself?
Yeah, it's like even with my... I can't say that because then it'd be people watching it would know exactly who I'm talking about. But there are just situations where it's like, I was face to face with Sergeant Major and he's like, hey, so what about this? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. My chain of command said that they were working on it. My chain of command is sitting right next to me. But it's been a year or 2 years and there's still no progress on this one particular thing. And it's like, is it really too much to ask for you to just submit a piece of paperwork to the brigade commander?
Right.
You know?
Right. Right. I mean, it shows you people's real character where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, being a leader looks great,
Yeah.
but you need to actually be a leader. Like that
Yeah.
part is work. That part is ugly. That part is tasking and requires courage
Yeah.
outside of a tactful situation, outside of your specific job specialty. You need to be able to take care of people. The administrative side requires a lot of courage to knock on people's doors, ask questions, do what you need to do to take care of your people. Like
Yeah.
but it's a great feeling to be able to do that.
It is a great feeling. It's backbreaking.
Yes.
It is, it wears you down.
But it's rewarding.
It's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to know that you did everything you could possibly do for the person that you are trying
Right.
to help.
Because it means something to that person. Even if the results don't end up being the way you want them to, that person knows like somebody cared.
Yeah.
And that in itself is some kind of a resolve.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
100%. So I know we've gotten really off track, but
Yeah. So,
just kind of getting back to where we were a little bit.
Yeah.
You've had multiple sexual assaults.
Yep.
You finally have reported it.
Yep.
You're coming down to, you know, the guy that he raped you, and that's such a terrible word to say.
It is. It's
But it's like, I
cringy.
feel like I should say it
Right.
more forcefully almost, because it's like it happened. It's real.
I'm only recently becoming more comfortable with being
Yeah.
like, yeah, he raped me.
Yeah.
Because before, you couldn't get me to say it for nothing. I would just
Yeah.
tear up and just be like,
Yeah. No, I know. Even in our
You know?
even in our first conversation to kind of figure out, hey, how are we going to talk about this? You know?
right, how do we call it?
Yeah, it was still a little bit. You're more loose with it now than you were before, which I appreciate that. Thank you for being a little bit more comfortable now.
Yeah. A lot of it has been progressively realizing that the more I call it what it is, again, it goes back to like, that's their shame, their thing to carry. Like,
Yeah.
you did this to me. I am not, instead of me looking at it as like, oh, I'm a rape victim, it's like, no, you're a rapist, you know? And granted, I mean, both
Yeah.
can be true, but it's not just labeling me. It's like, no, you are that as well.
Yeah, I think we should progress into that, because that mindset really of where you're at now, you know.
Oh, well, there was that one last.
Yeah, go ahead.
So to wrap all these traumatic last 5 years, so I tell at one point my NCOIC also, he kind of gets super handsy-feely at one point after like get-together type thing. That was a very interesting experience. That was weird.
Yeah.
So he was my NCOIC. We were all drinking together, and it was like a big group of us. We were celebrating for somebody's birthday and promotion, and he was supposed to just wrap me up in a blanket, give me Motrin and water, go to sleep, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
And then at some point throughout the night, he just starts feeling up, and I'm like too drunk to. I mean, I was
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Granted, the next morning he pretended like nothing really happened. And it wasn't until I confronted him last year about it. And he admitted it. He remembered. He knew what he did was wrong. He was like, I'm so sorry. I wish I would have said something. Now, the problem is, this was like 3 years later. And when I reported it, nothing happened to him. Even though I had the messages proving that he admitted it. And that part's like, they just let him retire. Nothing happened to him.
Was that the one that was done in 30 days?
No.
No.
The one that was done in 30 days was the guy I was dating. Which was insane because, okay, I'll get to that. So all this has been going on, and my NCO, my direct supervisor, is aware of all of this. I tell him what my ex did at this point. I tell him, and the sucky part is when I told my NCO, I was hoping that he was going to tell me, hey, report it. Because that's all I was really waiting for. I think I needed somebody to say, go report it. And he didn't. He just said, I'm so sorry that happened. That sucks, and this and the other. And that was it. Which is weird because it's like, it ain't your job to report it. Like,
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
So-
100% it is. As soon as you tell your NCO,
Right.
anyone in your chain of command, they have
right.
to report it.
And that was my way of being like, help.
Yeah.
like
I mean, the fact that you even told somebody.
right,
Finally,
right,
because this whole time you haven't told any of your NCOs, you haven't told any of your chain of command.
right.
We just thought that you were happy-go-lucky Solomon,
Right.
and you're
At
not.
this point, they just know me as like a name on a sheet of paper. As far
Yeah.
as the reports was just okay, we know her, we know she's still killing at her job. We're here to support her.
Yeah.
But my NCO knew everything. So some time had passed. I was at ALC. This was like 2018. And he told me that he was in love with me and like all the shenanigans. And I was like, whoa, where did that come from?
So all this time he's been protecting you, helping you.
Right.
And he's just like, hey, by the way, I'm still predatory as fuck.
Basically.
Yeah.
So it caught me off guard where I was like, okay, you're married with a kid.
Yeah.
Let's just get that out the way. So that's just a no-no. Also, he was older than me, and it was like, okay, dude, in a different universe, in a different dimension, maybe.
Yeah.
Because he was a cool dude. Like, we had a great time together, sense of humor, and we would all hang out as a group.
Yeah, I've met people like that. You know? It's like, hey, in a different life, sure.
Sure. But in this one, nah, bro.
Yeah.
Not happening. So he respected that. He's like, okay, cool. I understand. I just wanted to tell you that you were great. You don't deserve to be with that guy. Whatever. But he respected that boundary. And I was like, cool. If you ever feel like you can't respect that boundary, you let me know and I will step away.
Yeah.
So some time passes. He goes to warrant, applies to become a warrant, gets accepted, gets elected, goes through the course, whatever. And he's at the phase where he's gonna go to like the second, what is it? Like where you, I can't remember, not walk. The other one comes after it.
Were you actually pinned?
No, so he pinned, this was like studying your specialty.
Oh, okay. So he's just going to his like follow-on school.
Yeah,
okay,
the follow-on
cool,
school. So
cool.
he's already won, like W1.
Yeah.
And all that jazz.
Now he's gonna go specialize.
Right. So he comes back from the school, where at this point I had done a couple of Tough Mudders, half marathons. I was really trying to get into the physical thing to kind of just keep proving something to myself.
Yeah, definitely.
And at this point, I'm still going through school. I had bought a house. Like, I was just trying to progress in every other aspect of my life. Meanwhile, internally, I was, like, in shambles. Just, like, a hot mess. And the one thing I can say is none of it is worth it if you can't enjoy it. What's the point,
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Who cares about the house? Who cares about the car? Who cares?
Yeah, so you're killing it in your life.
Absolutely.
You're
like from the outside looking in.
You're like a fucking boss. You got a house. You got the job. You got this dream position.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's amazing.
I'm making a decent amount of money. Like,
yeah.
I'm seeing the world. I'm comfortable. Like,
you're doing good.
I should be happy, but I'm not. I'm miserable beyond. I hate it. Personal life, behind closed doors. The moment I got in my car, just miserable. And I remember. We both signed up for the Air Force Navy half.
Yeah.
And that was we picked up our packets, and that was the first time he kind of like attempted. So you pick up your packet in one area, and then I figured I was like, let me wait traffic out because I lived further out in the area.
Yeah.
I lived So I wait traffic out, and he had like a hotel in the area.
Yeah.
And his family was still there. It's a whole thing. So I was like, all right, cool. Let me just stay there because the way it was like a suite, and then the bedroom area had a door and all that. It was like sectioned off, So I'm sitting in the living room, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's when he kind of makes the first attempt. And I was like, whoa, dude. And he was like, hey, like he starts kissing me and stuff. And he's like, I can get condoms. And I was like, no, bro. No, let me just stop you right there. So previously he had made attempts at kissing me before, but it always been when he was drunk.
So it's kind of like
a pretense.
Yeah.
Like, had I known he was capable of that, I would have taken it as a red flag. But
yeah,
I again try to give him the benefit of the doubt of like, okay, you were super drunk.
Yeah. People
do stupid stuff when they're drunk.
I mean, we had a guy in our unit that every time he got drunk, he would like bite my ear. It was the weirdest thing.
That's weird.
Like, dude, fuck off.
To bite your ear?
Yeah.
That's
and
weird.
I was just like, yeah, that's just him.
Right.
Like, stop doing it. I'm gonna fucking hit you. But
right.
It's like back the fuck. But I mean, that's just,
Again, in my mind.
Is it weird? Yeah, for sure.
Why would somebody jeopardize everything he has worked for something like this?
Yeah.
In my mind, we have a clearance to lose. We have like you have a family and all that. Like for what, right?
I think that for a lot of people, that's almost more thrilling.
Yes, that's what I'm
The more
realizing.
you have to lose, the more exciting it is to,
Like
to
it
do
becomes a
something like
chase. It
that.
becomes this adrenaline
Yeah.
rush.
For me, I can't even.
Oh, forget
I would
that.
get a heart attack. That would.
I'm not even late for work. Well, I'm usually not late for work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I'm late
saying?
for work
It's
often.
we have lines,
Yeah.
okay?
We got lines.
So the next time my birthday is in September.
Yeah.
So the next run event is the Army 10 miler.
Okay.
So we both signed up for it. And he's like, hey, I'll come up the weekend before, or whatever it was, or weekend after, and we can hang out beforehand. I'm like, cool, whatever, yo. Because again, he had apologized. Again, he was like, my bad, won't cross the line. Because at this point, you're a whole warrant. You got serious things to lose. You're putting a lot on the line to jeopardize. Like, I'm not worth that, bro.
Yeah, very serious things.
Yeah. At a minimum, think of your kid. So.
I'm very curious as to why those things that matter to us don't matter to them.
Right.
Like,
why do I care more about these things than you do?
Yeah.
And I think that part hurt more because I'm being the decent human being that I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
And here, like, I can't fathom his mindset that would, like, allow him to do that.
Yeah.
So we go get crab legs and, like, sweet frog, like the frozen yogurt, whatever. And when we get crab legs, I'm like, hey, I appreciate the crab legs. Let me pay for half. Like, because I'm not taking money from your family, bro.
Yeah.
And he's just like, no, I could take the points or whatever. And I'm just like, no. Like, I'm being so serious. Like, I'm being dead ass right now. I'm not taking money from your family. Because I'm pretty sure your wife doesn't know you're out here eating crab legs with me. And I appreciate the sentiment as far as you're taking me out for my birthday.
Yeah.
And I usually don't do anything for my birthday. And I'm trying to be better at that. Like, the whole and that's the thing. He was so big on, like, hey, take care of yourself, self-care. Like, he was so big on pushing, take care of yourself. Which was something I appreciated because nobody had ever really emphasized that to me.
It sounds like he had a bit of an issue with the carrot. Like, treat yourself. Treat yourself whenever you feel like treating yourself. Treat yourself to whatever you want to treat yourself.
Yeah, now in hindsight, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know for sure, but it's
That's
just
interesting.
a thought,
So that night, the way it worked, so I parked on base. And then, because, parking here is insane.
Yeah.
So parked on base, and he scooped me up, and then we drove to go get the crab legs. And then we went back to, he had another hotel because the race was going to be in the area.
Yeah.
And again, it's closer than where I lived. So I did not plan on staying the night in any way because I was like, I'll just drive back, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was eating my ice cream, living my best life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Woo. I had just turned 25. Quarter of a century.
Yeah, that's when it all starts to go downhill.
No, not yet. I'm fighting that. Okay, no wrinkles.
I've accepted it already.
No. So what if I pulled my back sneezing? I don't care.
Oh my god, I was stretching my neck one day and it got stuck.
Oh, see, no.
Yeah.
No. I definitely was sleeping last night like this, and I almost suffocated myself. It was bad. Anyway.
Sorry.
Dark humor. Okay, so at this point, I'm finishing up my ice cream or whatever, and we're watching soccer or something on TV. Because I'm more so waiting, like, okay, well, time to get a ride back to my car.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of getting late. We got a race tomorrow.
Definitely.
Or the race was Sunday, and this was like a Friday going to a Saturday. And I remember him kissing me. I remember him, like, trying to take my clothes off. And I remember being like, no, trying to put stuff back on. And again, this dude is exceptionally strong. Like, he had just went through warrant school and all that. And again, he's got some old man strength. And it's also like, I'm aware, again, of my small, like, I'm not weak, but I also have, like, their proportion limits,
Yeah.
So he's stronger than me. And I remember, I'll never forget it, like, this distinct moment where I was making eye contact with him, where I'm like, I do not want to do this. No. Get off of me. And I started listing reasons as to why he shouldn't. I was like, what about your wife? Think about your kid. You got clearance. You did me a warrant. Da-da-da-da. Like, what about this? And I was just be like, just trying to, like, appeal to him in any kind of way of being like, please don't do this. And even like as I'm trying to like stop him from taking my clothes off, it was like, okay, but if you're laying on top of me, like, you're heavier than me. I literally cannot, like, I'm trying to do something, like trying to move, but like I'm just stuck like this. So he doesn't listen, of course. And I remember that moment where he just pushed himself inside me, and I was like, even saying it, like, I have to like detach for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's like a.
I think that most people do have to detach for a second.
Because it's like a blinding moment. Like, it's surreal. Because I remember being like, what just happened? And so he finishes, goes to sleep, and now I'm just kind of like,
what the fuck do you do?
Yeah, like, what? where do we go from here, you know?
Yeah.
So next morning comes, I get dressed, get in my car. You know, he takes me to my car or whatever. Everything's kind of seems fine because it's just still like, what the fuck? Get to my car, go home. I have a roommate that I was living with at the house, and she didn't suspect anything. I just go upstairs, shower, whatever, and get ready for the race.
Yeah.
Because the race is the next day. I drive up to the race with a friend. We do the race. I see him there, and he's just kind of playing off like nothing happened, like everything's cool, whatever. And then we kind of go about whatever. So a couple of days later, or maybe like a week or so later, he calls me completely drunk, apologizing, saying, hey, it's been really bothering him. He knows what he did was wrong. He's so sorry. And if I ever wanted to report it, he will admit to everything and just, like, he's so sorry. He's like, I need to do what's good for me and this, that, and the other. And I was like, my first thought was, what about your kid? Like, I would hate to be the one that takes a father away from a kid, which is shitty because he knew the relationship I had with my dad was pretty rough. He knew I enjoy seeing fathers that spend time with their daughters. Mm-hmm. Like, it makes me so happy, you know? Like, daughters are just like, ah, ha, ha, and their dads are there. And
yeah.
I, in hindsight, I think it was one of those calling a bluff type things where it's like, he knew what he did was wrong. And he said that he never thought he would be that person because he never realized that could happen in a split second. It's a split second decision to do what you want to do. And I was like,
I don't know if I agree with that.
Right. There are many steps that come before that moment.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's cite neuropsychology for a second. There's a book called The Anatomy of Violence. In the book, it talks about brain scans, a lot of it being a possibility of genetics, right? You know, but that aside, the main thing that this author talks about is there are steps that lead up to assaults like these, right? Mm-hmm. You have, like, I'm going to call it flirtatious stalking, where you flirt with the idea of stalking. And
you
then,
entertain it.
And then, right. Yeah, you flirt with that idea, and then you start to actually do it, and then you find out where a person lives, and then, you know, you might peep a little bit, and then, you know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in this exact order, but then after peeping, you tend to take panties and things like that. You know, you go through their clothes, you go through their stuff, you start taking stuff, and then you start getting into personal space, a physical personal space, and then before you know it, you know, you're getting too close, or you're being a little aggressive, or you're pushing, you're doing the next thing. It's rape. The only thing that you can do after that is murder. You know, and now obviously that seems like a big jump, right?
But it really isn't. Like, if you're at that mindset of rape, it's not that far.
I mean, it's not. I mean, they call it the crime of passion for a reason.
Right.
Because it most likely could have been accidental, you know? Right. You didn't mean to do it, but you did it, you know? But there's definitely a progression. There are steps to these things. There's no such thing as, oh, you know, one day I woke up and then I just was like, I'm going to take something that's not mine.
Right.
And then I'll apologize about it later.
It starts with a thought that festers for a while, and you entertain it, and you just let it grow, and it's like, all right, what do you think was going to happen? Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, in hindsight, I think I can see now where it was like, I felt like he waited and prayed for like 3 years. And you know what I'm saying? Like 3 years I was there, just seeing me go through everything. Like, there's no way a decent human being can watch somebody struggle and go through all that and then do the same thing
Yeah.
that would hurt them. And then on top of that, he got close. Like,
Yeah.
we would barbecue with his family, pool parties and stuff with his kid. And he stored his motorcycle in my house. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were a family.
Yeah.
Like he met my mom at my promotion.
Jesus.
You see, like,
Yeah.
it's they become a part of your life and you don't see it.
Did we talk about this last time about grooming?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm not very familiar with grooming in particular. It's a hard topic to read about, you know?
Because you don't want to think that you're capable of being groomed.
Yeah, you don't want to think that you're capable of being groomed, but the reality is people can groom you at any point in time, especially if you're malleable, you know, and it takes a lot of work to not be malleable, you know? But it really does sound like grooming, you know? It does. I mean, at least from my understanding of what that is. And I think it's safe to say that there's a lot of grooming that goes on in situations like that. You know, like I told you, I'm going to be doing another podcast with another female, and there's a situation that she told me about where it very much seemed like
she was being set up for
she was being set up. She was being groomed for a particular, not necessarily for, you know, I don't know if it ever came about for you or for her in the sense that somebody, you know, actively thought, I'm going to commit this atrocity. I think it was more.
I don't think
when,
so.
When the opportunity presents itself, I will be ready.
Right.
You know, which is much more scary in my mind.
It is.
You know, because it's like at any given time, an opportunity could be there.
Because you're not even aware that that's the mindset they're holding.
Yeah.
Because if I had known, no thank you, I would have had no interest. I would have kept my distance. I would have done what I needed to do to protect myself.
Yeah.
But the fact that those kind of peoples are, again, like almost psychopathic type tendencies where, like, if you know what you did was wrong and you're still playing these mind games and still trying to call a bluff and you're continuing on like normal life, like there's something very wrong with that.
Yeah. You know, this is a little bit off topic, but really on the lines of there's something very seriously wrong. I remember when I was in college, you know, because I joined a little bit later in life. I graduated at 17. I didn't join until I was almost 21. But I was in college, and I remember that there was a topic that we had to discuss, and it was for whether you were for the death penalty or not, right? So I started looking at death penalty cases, and I started to look up rape cases, and I don't know if it's still around, but at the time on Google you could look up specific law review, and it would show you like court case documents of rape stuff, or anything really that you type in. And so I had stumbled across a child that had been raped, right? Now, obviously that's two factors. It's pedophilia, and secondly, it's rape. But I was always shocked that there was no death sentence on things like that. I mean, the girl was genuinely ruined for the rest of her life. Emotionally, spiritually, physically, literally physically destroyed.
Child?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I was just like, you know, what really is the difference between murder and murdering someone's body and their mind for the rest of their life? You know, like, I get it, you're taking somebody's life, but I would rather die.
Yeah.
I'd rather fucking be dead. I mean, that's probably a naive thing to say because I don't want to die, but
no, but that's pretty spot on. Like, if I didn't have that psychological support, to be honest, a lot of it was just like, I just want to die. It's not that I didn't want to live. It was just like, I can't live with this. I don't want this. It's very easy to understand how people get hooked on drugs, how people get that. Like, it is very simple to see how a lot of people we see on the streets and stuff, like, they all have backstories. It's when you don't know how to deal with things healthily or in a healthy way.
I think healthily is a word.
Is it a word?
Yeah, I think so.
Healthily?
We're probably wrong.
Probably wrong. No, that's okay. Public education.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more understanding when I see people struggle or have like habits of like alcoholism and stuff. It's like there's something undealt with there, and it's very easy. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't until I started getting help before I was like, okay, I need to step away from alcohol now.
Yeah.
Because one, as much running as I'm doing, beer is a lot of carbs.
Yeah.
Also, the last thing I wanted to do was reach an end point where things got better, and now I have to deal with liver cancer. You know, like that would have been pretty shitty. Like, I don't want to be my own worst enemy, and I don't want my life to be negatively affected because of somebody else's decisions, on top of the fact that it's already negatively affected.
Yeah.
You know?
I like how you motivate yourself with really negative consequences. Like, yeah, like,
It's
okay,
bad.
I mean, like, it's not really good, but
Yeah.
it's not really, it's a coping mechanism.
Right.
That's what it
It
is.
helps me understand the seriousness of it. Of like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to appreciate good things and happy things right now.
Yeah.
But I do know what bad things are.
Yeah.
And I don't want the bad thing.
Like, it could be worse.
Absolutely.
It could get way worse.
Right. Like,
Like, yeah, I could be going through all these sexual assaults and I could be really shitty at my job.
right.
And I need to have one stable source of feeling worthy,
Correct. Like, I am good for something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, y'all gonna not gonna. You can question anything you want on my personal life, but you can't ever question is my work ethic. It's clean.
I know it's not the same for everybody. I know it's not, because this is not a black and white subject.
Right. Everybody deals with things differently.
But a lot of people that I have talked to, they often have one thing that they feel really, really fucking good about. Like, for some people, like you and that other female, it's work ethic. She lives by her work ethic. Like, it's just, that's the only thing that she feels like she can always control, no matter what's going on. I can control this. For other people, it's, I've been assaulted so many times, but I'm still so good at talking to people and I just want to help people, There's always something that somebody's, if they can cope at all, because sometimes your mind is just broken and somebody has to put you back together, and that's not your fault.
Right.
You just need the help. So, okay, quick question on this. Do you feel, with all things considered, that you're lucky or unlucky with the resources that you did have or the resources that you didn't have being in the military?
I am beyond fortunate and blessed to have been in an agency where the people I've come across have been that emotional. They fill that emotional gap when I couldn't do it myself. So like my vidcom, my VA.
Yeah, you're victim advocate.
Victim, that's the word.
Yeah,
victim advocate. The psychs that I see.
Yeah.
Because I'm a PCS that I move on to. But they always made sure that I transitioned over to another psychologist that would work for me.
Yeah.
Like, that has been such an essential, like, I do not know where I would be without that. I don't know, even when they started me on like meds and stuff to help me sleep and whatnot, I don't know where I'd be without that.
Yeah.
Like, my God, the fact that I was so sleep deprived, I mean, the anxiety, the depression, just even getting to a point, being able to call it what it is, being able to get to this point would not have happened without mental health, like psychiatrists, psychologists, victim. Jesus.
I got you.
Yeah.
Victim advocate.
Yeah, their support. A lot of it has been them helping me keep my eyes on the prize, which is me recovering versus me getting justice, if you will. Because it was so disappointing and heartbreak after heartbreak every time I never got the result I wanted. Even with this last case, they ended up just giving him a slap on the wrist, and now he gets promoted this month.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking because in some cases I've lost mutual friends that don't even know that what's happened, but all they know is his side, and he hasn't even fully told the story or whatever it may be, and now I get treated weird, and it's like I'm not even gonna address it, or in some cases I'm not gonna address it. But I will say I am beyond grateful. I'm pretty sure if I had not come to this assignment, if I had not gotten the mental help and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure I'd be dead somewhere. Even just keeping those secrets in it physically takes a toll on your body. Your body does not forget. It will drain everything of you. Just your motivation, your energy. Like, I would work out and it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was reading something a couple days ago. Now, granted, it's Facebook, so what can you really, ascertain from that? But it was a post of a woman who had committed suicide 8 or 9 years after she had been raped, and the people that had posted it basically said, obviously she committed suicide, but she was never the same after the rape. She was never the same after the sexual assaults. That's what killed her. That's what did her in the end. So I understand what you're saying. I really do, because
absolutely,
you are as unfortunate as it is that this happened in the service, while you were active duty. It's also fortunate that you had behavioral health. I mean, like,
And I will say they're also, it's not frowned upon here. Like, once they reassured us over and over again that this will not negatively affect your career, unless, as long as you don't plan on harming yourself or someone else.
Yeah.
You can talk to somebody and get help.
Yeah.
Like, that was like, are you sure? You know, just to get reassured, like,
Yeah.
Is it okay for me to get help? I'm in an environment where they want you to take care of yourself.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It really is.
That's the only way you're going to perform well.
Yeah, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area are really, really good at making sure that soldiers are taken care of.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. And you know, I was just talking to a guy a couple of days ago, and he was concerned about some things psychologically, and I was like, it makes sense that you'd go to behavioral health. He went there, and they said, hey, if we give you this diagnosis, we can kick you out for just run-of-the-mill ADD.
Oh, my.
Yeah, but if you're up here, you know, granted, he is in Bragg.
Yeah.
You know,
which sucks, because what if you can get the help you need and be fully functional?
That's the thing. You can. It depends on who you talk to, what your rank is, what your worth is to the company, the unit, the command, whatever you want to call it.
Which is sad that they don't see you as just an individual patient.
Yeah.
Because they're a medical professional.
I mean, see, that's kind of one of those weird, untold things that that even people like civilians and military people don't really understand about the military healthcare system. There are people who sit behind a desk in your chain of command that specifically monitor every single drug, every single thing that you're on. Yeah, 100%. So when I was working in, I really don't want to say too much, but basically when I was working in the 82nd as a brigade NCOIC for a clinic, I remember that the nurse, his job was literally to know exactly which medications every single person in his unit was on. That makes some sense because you want to make sure that people are, you know, actively able to participate. You're actively
just
able to, you know, you're monitoring, right? And then they monitor profiles. So profiles meaning whether or not you can run, ruck, whatever you got to do, okay? But the thing is, they're monitoring very, very closely, specifically to see who is I'll call it a flagrant offender, like somebody who's malingering. Somebody who, you know, here's the thing. Pieces of paper are really good for determining statistical data in terms of qualitative, right? You know, like the number, the quality of it, the number. Or maybe that's quantitative. That's quantitative, I think. Yeah, quantitative is the number because that's quantity. Sorry.
I get what you're saying.
I just took stats. I didn't do too well in it. But the qualitative data of like the individual patient, you know, this is why having a company doctor or a battalion doctor is so important, because if your battalion doctor or PA doesn't know you and you're on all these medications and all these things, you know, they're not seeing, they see, okay, this person's on a cocktail of everything, right? And some of these make you non-deployable. But the reality is, if you look at the person, you know, you're saying, hey, this person's really doing a lot of good work. They're doing a great job. They're very functional. They're very capable.
They can advocate for you and be like, hey, no, actually, I can vouch for them. They're good.
Yeah. But, you know, that's kind of the downfall, you know, because they're constantly being monitored.
Right.
You know, that was my biggest fear of coming out and doing some of the things that I've done. You know, like, am I going to be non-deployable?
Right.
You know?
Right.
But up here, in this area, it's still monitored, but it's not monitored the same way.
I think there's more of an understanding and acceptance up here.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more senior ranking people who need those resources. So it's become more of like, okay, we understand.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of try to wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So where you are now, as opposed to where you were when this all began, all went through it, do you feel like you've made progress?
I have, in several areas. I recently told my mom.
That's a huge deal.
Yes. I was terrified.
Yeah.
I told my brother a couple of months ago. I'm starting to tell people that I normally would have been scared to tell.
Yeah.
More so because I'm not sure their reaction. I feel like I'm in a better emotional place to handle whatever reaction they may have, because this is about to be fresh news to them.
Yeah.
You know, I think I can also say that, like, even spiritually, because during all this, there was a point where I was in my closet crying and being like, God, I'm gonna die. Like, I
Yeah.
can't handle it. Just crying and just be like, I don't know what you want from me. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to protect myself. Like, what now? Where do we go from here? Because at this point, the idea of like being married and dating, like all that went out the window. Because I was
Yeah.
like, I don't care anymore. I just want to be left alone. I'm tired of this happening. What I didn't know, so I thought it was like one of those things where you get struck by lightning. What are the odds of it happening again?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, statistically, if you have been raped or sexually assaulted, you are statistically more likely to be raped or sexually assaulted again. It's kind of like what we talked about where predators, like, they can smell it.
Oh yeah, yeah. The analogy that I gave you was if a bear pisses on you,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna smell like bear piss, and
Right.
every other bear can smell that you smell like bear piss.
Right. So
Yeah.
predators are, it's like this, they just know.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I didn't freaking know. I was so mad. I was like, nobody told me that. Like, I would have been more on guard, damn it.
Hey, that's a cheat code right there.
Right.
Come on.
Like, so help me. So now, I mean, now that I'm aware of it, I'm very, very cautious and grateful for the few people that I keep around me.
Yeah, definitely.
Granted, my interactions, even when I'm traveling for work and whatnot, are pretty limited. I feel like I'm more closed off. I feel like it's kind of like I'm under construction type thing.
Yeah.
The hardest thing has been letting go of who I was and then trying to find hope again.
Yeah.
Because I realized the opposite of depression is hope. And
Yeah, that's very true.
the hope of not necessarily even being in a relationship one day. It was just the hope of being happy one day. The hope of, like, that I could not be hurt like this again, you know? Just the hope of, is someone going to treat me as valuable as I am?
Yeah.
Or just treat me for my worth? Or at a minimum, just respect my boundary. And it just, I do feel like I have made progress and that I'm rebuilding this new version of who I am.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm speaking up for myself more. I feel like the one thing all of this took away was my voice and my ability to speak up for myself.
Yeah.
Because it just, I felt like if I started talking, I would have let out the secret, you know? And now it's like, hold on. I mean, I reported everything that happened here right before my 26th birthday because I was like, I am not taking this secret with me. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not holding any of these secrets anymore. Like, I was like, for what? Why am I holding on to their secrets and they get to live their life? It clicked where it was like, they did this. They should be trying to hide this, not me. Why am I being the secret bearer for all and you did this to me? And, you know, it clicked where it was like, I want my freedom. I want to get better. I want to be happy. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm in a better place. There's still a lot of progress to make, a lot of, you know, things to recover from. But
Yeah.
I do feel like I'm in a better place for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's seriously awesome.
I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Because every day, I mean, some days are harder than others.
I mean, that's the thing. It's not going to be like an easy.
No.
Oh, okay, I'm better now. You know.
No.
There are new things. There are new challenges. There are new coping habits. There are new ways to adapt and new ways to sense people out and feel what they're trying to do and what they might want or might not want. You know?
Every time, freaking therapy, man. You realize something else that you haven't dealt with. So I know for me, with everything that had gone on, anger was and is still something I struggle with in a sense of like, I don't want it to consume my life. Stress, anger, all that takes a toll on your physical body. And
yeah, it sure does.
I have more so recently have had to come to terms with the idea that I need to find a way to forgive these people, not because I'm not angry, not because I would love nothing more than to do explicit things.
Yeah.
Insert thoughts there. But because that's how I'm going to get my freedom. It's choking me to not be able to move on. And I hate, it's painful. It is hard. It's angering beyond measure. But I know that getting that release of just being like, if I ever see them again, my life isn't going to fall into shambles. You
Yeah.
know, I want to be at that point where you can't affect me no more. You can't hurt me no more. You got to explain this yourself. It's not on me. Yeah.
100%.
And it's shitty because forgiveness is hard, man.
Yeah, that's something that I have a personal, very, very personal journey with. I very much understand. For me, it was forgiving my parents for being certain ways, knowing that I'll never get what I think I want, and just accepting that, we're at where we're at. And I just gotta let that go. There's a lot of power to be had in knowing that the apology
may never come.
It may never come.
And that's the one thing too. Along with apologies never coming, I realized we're never gonna get the answer to why. Why did this happen? And
Yes.
that's the one thing I feel like God's been telling me. Like, I can't tell you the why, but I can help you get through this.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's gonna be a reason.
Yeah.
And that part is so hard.
I mean, because the why justifies the means.
Right. But the thing is, sometimes there's no justification for
No.
it. Sometimes it is what it is, and the important thing is the after. And I remember asking God, being like, God, why'd you let this happen? Why'd you let them get away with it? Just angry.
Yeah.
And I remember I felt like he was telling me, because you're more important to me right now than they are. Like, you recovering, your emotional state is more important than whatever happens to them, because say they had all been charged or whatever, my recovery should not be dependent on that.
I think that's a really good distinction that you just made. Your
It's
recovery,
hard.
Exactly. It is so, I can't even imagine the strength that it takes to understand, though, that your recovery is not tied to what happens to those individuals.
And it's hard because it's like, you don't have a choice but to accept it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could choose to be in denial about it, but to fully attempt to swallow that truth is like, why? Why? You know? It doesn't have to be this way, but yeah.
So when you're with your personal progress in this, were you ever prompted by others to go and seek help, or was this something that you felt that you needed to do on your own?
I needed to do it because I knew I was losing bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I was not making it. Depression was, it was getting hard to even freaking get up out of bed, shower, eat. I mean, just the basic things were just dragging, and I would fight every day, just keep pushing. But I remember those days where I was like, I'm losing so bad. I'm losing my motivation. And I just remember being like, I need help. As long as people are willing to help, I'll keep fighting.
Yeah.
And I'm so eternally grateful that people were there,
Yeah, absolutely. So another quick question. For people who struggle with alcohol addiction and things like that, I've often heard it said that you can't look at it in a long-term plane. You have to look at it today. I'm not going to drink. Okay, next day, today, I'm not going to drink. Is it somewhat similar for you with the struggle of some of these things, like today, I'm going to get through today, and that's it?
I can tell you a couple of days ago, I definitely I was dealing with something super stressful, and every part of me was like, I want to drink so bad. And I told myself, the only time I'm going to start drinking again is when I'm at a point where I can drink because I'm celebrating, not to bury feelings.
Yeah.
And I got home around 11 o'clock. I was sitting in my car, and I was texting my friend, but they fell asleep, and I was like, oh. And I just remember the feeling like, I want to drink so bad. And I just knew it was just like, don't do it. Don't open that door. You know it's going to lead nowhere. And I just sat in my car for a little bit.
Yeah.
I put like some music on and just had to like be like, okay, you want to drink because you want to knock out and just forget this day, which means you're actually tired, which means we just need to go upstairs, shower, and crash and just go to sleep. Like take your sleep meds or whatever, and just kind of catch myself earlier on because it was such a stressful day.
Yeah.
It was definitely like, it's like, I need tequila. I need everything. I would have taken Hennessy with a straw. Like, just,
oh my God.
It was, those moments I know, I think it's my red flag to be like, okay, you're feeling a lot right now.
Yeah.
And it's not the alcohol you want. You want relief, and you just need to chill for a sec. And I
Yeah.
just stayed where I was, and then eventually I went in the house and showered, knocked out. The next day was a bit better. It took a couple of days, but yeah, it's definitely one day at a time. And it's not even to say that I struggle with alcohol. I think it's more struggling with not burying my feelings.
Yeah.
With not like letting myself. And humans have so many feelings.
Yeah.
My God.
That should be a t-shirt.
Look, so
Yeah.
many. Oh, it's gonna be a t-shirt. So trademark that right now. So many feelings. Yeah, just learning not to bury those feelings and just kind of taking them in small doses and realizing that again, what I don't want is to, in trying to deal with my feelings, pay for them later. You know.
Yeah.
So like, okay, cool, you can cope with it with drinking now. God forbid I have health issues down the road. Well, that sucks, because what happens if I'm happy down the road and now I gotta pay for, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
what you do now absolutely will affect you in the future, which I think keeping that in mind has been very difficult because it's dictated the decisions I've made and how I've navigated the last couple of years. And it's made certain decisions much harder. I mean, I don't regret anything. A lot of it was self-preservation.
Yeah.
But just trying to keep in mind, like, the future is still there.
Yeah.
You know, like, what can I do now that will give me the end result that I want in the future? Yeah. A little bit of hope.
Damn straight. Damn straight. All right. So another question. With taking meds and things like that, were you initially receptive, or were you a little bit
It was my idea.
Oh, okay.
That was the amazing part about it. They never pushed, and I started medication last year, about a year ago now, and that was when I realized I was at a point where I was like, I'm losing bad.
Yeah.
This is getting really bad, and it started to get scary for me because I was like, this is getting dark very quick. And I was honest with my psych about the anxiety and all that stuff, and they're like, okay, we'll start off small, and if you ever don't want to take it, that's absolutely on you. We're never gonna it was definitely had to be my choice, me calling in. My docs were super supportive. They still are, as far as readjustments and all that stuff of like, okay, we're getting the anxiety on hold, cool. Okay, let's deal with the depression. All right, cool. We're dealing with that. And it's not even necessary to avoid those feelings. It's to, while I'm in therapy, allow me to be at a point where I can face them and not have my whole life put on pause.
Yeah.
So the big thing was like sleep. Sleep is such a huge part of recovery.
Yeah, 100%.
For everything.
Yeah.
And for me not to sleep was making me more anxious, which was making me depressed. And it was just a vicious cycle. And plus on top of everything. So yeah, it was just a matter of me realizing that, okay, I'm intentionally taking this medication or these medications to get through the hard parts of therapy, because there are some parts in therapy where I will try to avoid.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it, you know? I don't want to get to the root of it. Or I mean, I do, but it's very difficult for me to get into those feelings because they've been ignored and locked away for so long.
Yeah. Definitely. Mm-hmm. So is there anything that you would like for anyone to know? Like, is there, just to kind of wrap it all up, or, anything you feel like you left out?
If something bothers you, say something. Talk to people. Get help, like counseling, therapy. I know in a lot of cases, it's more of a privilege, but take advantage of it. If you can't talk to somebody, write it down. Get it off your chest. Like, what happened to you matters. Like, that trauma, it will affect your life, whether you like it or not. And it's not your fault. I think the key thing is how you end up deciding to deal with it. The first thing is be honest with yourself. As ugly and as much as it hurts, it's better now than 10 years from now, where you've just been lying to yourself consistently. Like, the sooner you decide to face what you've been running is the sooner you can stop it and like kind of reevaluate your whole life. It's a painful, life is painful.
Yeah.
And that sucks, and bad things are going to happen. And that's such an understatement, but sometimes there's not a reason why. Keep finding that hope. And in those moments that you run out of hope, reach out to people who love you. You know, it's scary to just put yourself out there and be like, I need help, but hope,
Yeah.
hope. Don't lose that. And if you lose that, it doesn't mean you're helpless. It just means you need somebody else to hope for you. You know.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, and be that for other people. Pay attention to red flags.
Yeah.
My God, like, don't assume from a distance people's happiness and smile. Somebody who's smiling all the time is not a good thing. People who are struggling all the time, like, check on people. You know, if you're doing great in life and you think it's always, everybody knows somebody that's been raped or sexually assaulted, but nobody can say, hey, yeah, I know a rapist, you know? And to say it's the people around you. It's always the people you least suspect, as far as nobody's the good guy or the good girl.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's the exception to doing bad things. So it can be hard to take the blinders off, but pay attention to people. Like, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them and watch out for people.
Yeah.
So both sides.
Definitely. No, I think that's so important because, you know, when we had last talked about this, one of the things that we had brought up was Vanessa Guillen. There's a lot of obvious controversy around her death and all of that, but the biggest, everybody's going to take some type of point away from that affects them personally, but the biggest point for me was that she didn't have anybody that she felt she could trust.
Right. Which sucks because in those moments you stop living in your truth because you have to now live a lie.
Yeah.
Because when you try to tell the truth, it's not accepted. When you try to be like, hey, this person walked in on me on the shower, like, who's going to believe you? Now, not being able to live in your truth and who you really are, I feel like that's the snowball effect of where it starts to go into no longer taking care of yourself and self-denial, and it just progresses to where now you're ignoring your emotions and now you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. Yeah, and I man, it's a heavy topic.
It is.
It's a heavy topic. It hits home. It hits hard.
It's a real topic.
It is, and that's why it's important to talk about these things. They're real topics that need to be genuinely discussed, in a negative light and a positive light. You know, and I think that, well, one, thank you for telling me, and anyone that listens to this, thank you for telling us all about this. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's important to get real, authentic truth out there. You know, not a soapbox. I'm standing on it. I want to scream at everyone, you know, because there's plenty of people that do that and it doesn't get heard anymore.
Right.
You know, the real things that get out there are genuine emotion, connection, and understanding. There's value in the words that you've said. And I really appreciate that. So.
Thank you.
All right. So last thing, last question. Okay. If you could tell yourself anything, we'll end it on a possibly light note. If you could tell yourself anything about military service and tell yourself just one thing to prepare for, anything in the world, what would it be?
Know your boundaries in every sense. Personal boundaries, work boundaries. Know where you stand on things and know where you draw the line. And don't let nobody cross that for nothing.
Damn, that was good.
Thank you. I don't know why it came to mind. I was like,
yeah, that was good. That was good.
Yeah, like, look, I don't care how old you are. I don't care what age you're joining in the military. Because I feel like a lot of adults have learned this, but you see a lot of young people who haven't learned it.
Yeah, definitely.
And they get, steamrolled over. And it's like, no. You don't even necessarily need to know who you are, because that takes time.
Yeah.
But know what you will not tolerate.
Yeah.
And know why.
Yeah. A good example is, I don't like how that feels. Stop.
Right.
You know, I don't like how it feels emotionally, physically, whatever. Don't
and there
do
is
it.
no exception. Right.
Yeah.
And you have the right to say that.
Yeah, 100% you do. Damn, that was good.
Thanks, man.
That was really good. I wasn't expecting that. All right, well, we're going to close it out. Thank you again, Meron Solomon. You've got your own podcast, right?
Yes, it is a work in progress. It's called 10-Minute Topics.
10
You
Minute
can find
Topics.
me at OriginalBlackGirl on Instagram, and then it has my other links on there too.
Okay, awesome. And this podcast will be dropped on YouTube under Suede Against the Grain. You can find me on Anchor. You can find me on Spotify and Apple Music as well, or podcast or whatever the hell they are. You can follow my Instagram. It's just Suede Perez. That's all you got to do.
Thanks.
Yeah,
And you'll
but
find me on her page.
yeah, definitely. Um, all right. Well, thank you for listening, and we appreciate you. And hopefully, you'll be back soon to listen to the next podcast.